The fourth, we believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
As the Secret Service investigates who brought a small plastic bag of cocaine into the West Wing, the White House maintains that many people had access to the area.
Where this was discovered is a heavily traveled area where many White House, West Wing, I should be even more specific, West Wing visitors come through.
The bag was discovered on the ground floor, according to a senior law enforcement official, in a common area near the entry of the West Wing. It was close to a set of storage cubbies where visitors leave their cell phones during a tour.
The indications seem to me that it probably was somebody involved in a tour, because keep in mind, the Secret Service detailees to the White House and the White House staff are routinely drug tested at random.
The White House confirms there were West Wing tours on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. All visitors are vetted and go through security before coming on White House grounds. The Secret Service has a K-9 unit that checks for explosive devices and biohazardous materials, not specifically for narcotics. Visitor logs and camera surveillance are now being searched for clues.
I think in the end, they'll be able to screen it down well enough, but there is a possibility that you may never determine who did this.
Are we really talking about cocaine? We're talking about coke, everybody? Rails. We're talking about lines. We're talking about snorting. We're talking about, nosebleeds. We're talking about something from the 80s. I say it's W's. That's who, or Junior. It's Trump Jr. Or, can't be Trump's, can't be left over from the Trump administration, because that would be Adderall, wouldn't it? It wouldn't be coke. Didn't you think Coke was over? Like Ron DeSantis's, presidential hopes and dreams? Didn't you think it was over? I thought Coke was over. I thought we had moved on to ketamine therapy and psilocybin. We were all going to do guided tours through our depression to come out the other side with psilocybin and mushrooms. Can you believe we're talking about cocaine at the White House now?
And I think it's funny when people try to infer that it might be Joe's. I mean, I know he looks really cool in those aviators, but he wasn't that cool.
Listen, if you had to assign it to a past president or a current or anybody in the West Wing, anybody that works at the White, you would have to go with W, because invading Iraq was such a cokehead thing to do. I mean, it was just such a, who does that? Okay. And here's the thing. Nobody that's addicted to coke leaves the coke in a cubby. Nobody. They literally will crawl on the floor and go through the freaking shag carpet. I know this. I loved cocaine in the 80s. Did you see I just did this? This was I just did that. It's so...
muscle memory.
Oh, yeah, muscle memory. That's what it is. No, I love coke. I weighed 100 pounds in the 80s. Literally. Weighed 100 pounds. I was a size 3. I loved it. I thought it was a diet aid is what I used it for. I didn't think it was a party thing. I thought it was for, dieting and for rock and roll. I mean, it was everywhere. I was a rock DJ. I was a rock jock is what I was. And it was everywhere in the 80s. Why are we talking about cocaine in the 2023s? How is that possible?
I've never at any point in my life made enough money to do coke, so I have very little opinion on this.
We're talking about snow, baby. We're talking about blow, nose candy. You holding, man? You got any Big C? Let's do rails. I mean, who in the hell still does? It had to be left over from the 80s. I'm telling you. And now all of a sudden they're telling us, first this morning they were going, well, we may never know. We just don't know. It's something we will never know. And now they're saying, we're going to, fingerprint the baggie. We're going to fingerprint the. Can you imagine if you are the person who, left your cocaine in a cubby? And who would do such a thing? Who would do that? Somebody not addicted, okay? That's who would do such a thing. But I mean, is there a way to test how old the cocaine is? Because it would explain so much of the Bush years. I mean, maybe W really did believe there were weapons of mass destruction because he was paranoid. I don't know. It would explain a whole hell of a lot. But to sit there, and you know why they're talking about this, as if it's never happened before, right? As if they've never found, a vial of Coke or a bag of anything in the White House. It's because they want to talk and blame it on Hunter. They want to say it had to be Hunter Biden. He's the only person that would have brought a baggie of cocaine. First of all, Hunter Biden wouldn't bring a dime. He wouldn't bring a baggie of who the hell even keeps cocaine in a baggie? And who leaves cocaine behind? Who does that? Who says, oh, hey, I will never need this again. Here, I'm just going to put it there in the cubby where everybody leaves their electronic equipment. No, electronica, cocaine, maybe that's the connection. But certainly not anybody would leave a baggie behind. And now they're saying it was a highly trafficked area of the White House. You mean drug trafficked, right, is what you want to say, but you can't say it because you have no evidence that it's a highly anything, okay? Nothing. So we'll probably never find out whose Coke it is. Oh, damn. But if there's any decency in this world, they will return it to its rightful owner. And I'm sure plenty of people would step forward, right? Oh, this is such a bogus story. This is like really, really nuts. Because cocaine is over, I thought. Like Ron DeSantis. He's over everybody. You know that video yesterday that, we all saw? I hope you saw it. I mean, I'm like tempted to play it, but I know I'll get flagged on the YouTube, but I don't really give a damn anymore about the YouTube. Just don't care. But I guess you really do need to see it. It is so bizarre, and I really want you to pay attention to. I'm going to play it. I don't even give a rat's ass anymore. But I want you to really, really, really look at it, okay? Because there are references in this crazy homophobic, or I don't know. It could go either way depending on what your outlook on life is. I guess you could look at it as homoerotic. Like, like why in the hell does Donald Trump worship the Village People kind of a thing? Like it could be one of the greatest mysteries in the history of heterosexual orange males, like why is DeSantis in this video of his, he's got oiled up, movie stars dressed up as, Greek gods. But the craziest one, the real sick one is he has in this video like twice, what's his name? Christian Bale, okay?
Yep.
From American Psycho. In the ad, more than once. What is the message? Like, who would want to be the president of the United States so, that they would associate themselves in a ad that they put out themselves, okay, with Christian Bale's character, Bateman, in American Psycho, which is a reference I use all the time whenever you want to like talk about sociopaths or psychopaths or even people that like the song Sussudio.
What do you say when people tell you who they are? Believe them?
Oh my God, I don't even understand like what this ad is supposed to be. But I will tell you that, Donnie Deutsch, who is an ad man, that is what he does. He's a marketing genius, Donnie Deutsch, okay? He said he's never seen anything so dark in his life, that DeSantis is just like one of these really deranged, dark human beings who either was trying to send a message that he hates gay people so much that he would, like chainsaw them, I don't know, while listening to Huey Lewis in the news. Or Phil Collins, I don't know. But he's got references in there to like Greek gods, like what is it, Leonardo DiCaprio? In one of the movies, he's like a Greek god who's avenging the death of his male lover.
Yeah, Brad Pitt, yeah.
It's Brad Pitt, yeah. Well, DiCaprio's in here too.
Yes, he is Wolf of Wall Street, yeah.
Wolf of Wall Street, yeah, where he's snorting cocaine off of girls' asses and like, what is the message? And it's very coke. It's very, retro. The whole, I don't know. I don't understand it. I will play it for you. I would love to know what the hell you think the message is, because I can't find anybody who can tell me what he's trying to say. Except that I'm done. I give.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens.
If Caitlyn Jenner were to walk into Trump Tower and want to use the bathroom, you would be fine with her using any bathroom she chooses.
That is correct.
In the future, can transgender women compete in Miss Universe?
Yes.
Make America great again.
Psych!
What? Oily muscle man? This is what Ron DeSantis puts in a commercial? I don't even get it. I don't.
Randy, that commercial literally is an AR-15 monster truck and bottle of penis enlargement pills all rolled into one.
For what purpose? To show what?
How awesome and manly he is.
Awesome and manly he is.
Yeah,
How is he awesome?
He's an alpha male.
He's not an alpha male. He's literally worshiping greased up, bodybuilders. I mean, it's like something Arnold Schwarzenegger would show you. I have no idea. Like, what is the message here? What is he trying to say? What is he trying to show you? What is he trying to? I don't know. I don't understand this man. There's something wrong with him. Okay, he is literally a person who enjoys. Trolling people, who just enjoys, I don't know. I don't even know what it is that he likes anymore. What is it that he likes? People dying around him? He's a sick SOB, right? That he would even put an ad out like that has Christian Bale as the American Psycho in it. Next to I don't know, what is it? It's like, Ferris Bueller music. I don't know what that's supposed to be. Chicka-chicka. Right? I have no idea what that. It's very sick. It's very sad. So anyway, a lot of people have seen it, and nobody can figure out what exactly this is. I will tell you that Donnie Deutsch was saying, listen, this is the darkest of the dark. I've never seen anything like it.
DeSantis is such a dark character. I've talked a lot about it on the show, how at the end of the day, a candidate, Trump, even though, we eviscerate him, and there is a likability if you're a Trump guy about him. He's entertaining. He's a lounge act. He's this.
Lounge act.
This guy is just the prince of darkness. And that is one of the darkest, most bizarre, twisted, deviant ads I've ever seen.
Well, he was defending it yesterday. Bipartisan backlash to the video, by the way. Many people calling it homophobic. Governor DeSantis standing by the ad, calling it fair game.
What do you mean?
I think, identifying Donald Trump as really being a pioneer in injecting gender ideology into the mainstream, where he was having men compete against women in his beauty pageants. I think that's totally fair game, because he's now campaigning, saying the opposite, that he doesn't think that you should have men competing in women's things like athletics. And so we've been very clear on it, that we believe in protecting the rights of our girls and the rights of women athletes to be able to participate with fairness and with integrity.
In response to those remarks, Trump campaign spokesperson said, quote, a desperate DeSantis campaign with a flailing candidate is in its last throes of relevancy.
Oh, it's definitely dead. I would he's now roadkill DeSantis. That I don't even understand what that ad was, but to sit there and tell me that he's all about defending our girls and women, that he's about defending the rights of women. Isn't this the same guy that just did a 6-week abortion bet? 6 weeks. Nobody even knows they're pregnant at 6 weeks. Okay. What the hell? Who is this for? Who is he trying to appeal to? And nobody even can tell whether or not it's homophobic or it's homoerotic. Nobody knows what the message of it is. So, Brandon Wolf, who is a wonderful spokesperson for gun legislation, meaning he'd like to see some. He was at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida, when this attack happened, and a lot of his friends died. And he's now, a person who appears regularly asking for and, saying America's like a crime scene now. Well, the White House is a crime scene, so why not, just put the whole yellow tape around the whole country, the whole freaking thing, because the whole world sees us as one giant crime scene now where our kids are being slaughtered at school, in the street, at the mall, at the, you name it, we'll kill you there, at the festival, at the July 4th parade, wherever you go, we'll kill you. You want to go to the supermarket? We'll kill you there. We'll hunt you down. We'll kill you there. Yeah, America's just a giant crime scene. But anyway, so Brandon Wolf was on, obviously, to talk about, gun legislation after, the July 4th weekend. But then they showed him the DeSantis ad, and they asked him, like, can you figure this out? Like, do you understand, like, what the message of this ad is as a Floridian, as somebody who lives with this governor and understands, that he will never do gun legislation, okay? He's all about slaughtering everybody all the time, and then he puts the American Psycho guy in his ad. What do you make of it?
This governor has staked a very bizarre and out-of-touch lane in the 2024 presidential race. He's decided that he's going to run to the right of Donald Trump, that he's going to build an entire brand on raw homophobia, transphobia, and general bigotry. I can't see, just from a political standpoint, I can't see how that's successful. And the amount of damage that he's done to our community has been catastrophic for us. There are hundreds of books that have been challenged across the state because they feature LGBTQ characters. Dozens of them have been banned. We have school districts that are refusing to recognize the historical contributions of our community. We have a hostile climate toward trans people that would see them arrested in the bathroom at the Miami airport that they would normally use in New York City. Things are really scary for LGBTQ people down here in the state of Florida right now. And we should take Ron DeSantis at his word when he says he wants to make America Florida.
You don't want to be Florida, trust me. You do not. You do not. Oregon, you don't want to be Florida. Washington State, you don't want to be Florida. Colorado, you don't want, no, not even close, okay? Not even close. Nobody wants to be us, okay? Where, you have a governor who is a bully. You have a governor who literally gets off on being cruel. You got a governor who literally sues Walt Disney, one of the greatest tourist attractions ever known to man in this state, especially in a state like Florida, which is all based on tourism. I mean, come on, this is crazy. You don't want to be like us. You would have to sue your ski slopes, Colorado, to even understand what attacking Disney in the state of Florida is. I mean, look. This is a guy who, I don't know, he must know he has no chance. He must know it's over. He must know that, he's done. Like cocaine, just done. Somebody's going to leave him in a cubby in the executive office building, the old executive office building. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But trust me, this guy, he's not going to stop.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Joe Biden has a tremendous economic record to run on. There's a nifty chart floating around social media. Everyone should check it out. The U.S. has the highest post-pandemic growth in the G7 and the lowest inflation. All the countries we compare ourselves to, 13.1 million jobs created. So yes, all the ones that were lost during COVID came back, and then we're gaining jobs at a faster clip than we did under the Trump presidency. 800K in manufacturing. There are articles all over talking about the manufacturing boom. We know unemployment is below 4%.
That's Fox.
What was that little logo down on the bottom left? That was a Fox logo?
That was
there?
Fox. That's their what do you call it? A token. That's their token liberal, okay?
They need to get a less effective one because she sounded pretty good to me.
She's amazing. Jessica Tarlov is her name. She is an amazing, token. If you had to have one, she's a good pick. But obviously, the Biden economy is, it's performing. We recovered faster than any of the other G7 countries in the world, and those are the 7 largest economies. Our inflation is lower than any of the G7 countries, and our growth is bigger than any of the. If there was a G1, we'd be it. We'd be it. You see what I mean? And it's just like unbelievable. And on the other hand, if Trump was still president, we would somehow manage to come in 8th place in the G7, which would be Russia. Because Russia was the G8, in case anybody's like, weren't we the G8? Yeah, we were the G8. We kicked Russia out. We kicked their ass out. So, we would be in 8th place in the G7 if you had it, to do all over again with the Trump thing. But here we are alone among advanced economies. And you know what's doing it? Huge factory building, huge building boom, factory building boom. I mean, we are, it's not just infrastructure, which started it, right? It's not just roads. It's not just bridges. It's not just repairs. It's not just potholes. It's building things now. It's not just fixing things that were built, but now we're building factories. We're building electric vehicle factories. We're building semiconductor factories. We're building all kinds of manufacturing plants all over this country. It's pretty freaking amazing. And, the one thing that Trump ever said that was true was he said that Democrats do better with the economy than Republicans do. Do you remember when he said that? Because I do.
Just seems that the economy does better under the Democrats than the Republicans. Just seems that the economy does better under the Democrats than the Republicans. Just seems that the economy does better under the Democrats than the Republicans. Just seems that the economy does better under the Democrats than the Republicans. Just seems that the economy does better under the Democrats than the Republicans.
Oops. Whoops. Yeah, just this once. You need to believe him. But listen, the only thing wrong with Bidenomics is the name. I think the name is bad, okay? It sounds too much like a vitamin supplement, okay? It just sounds like, something that you would compare to Prevagen. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like something that you would compare to Nariva. It needs another name, it's a riff off of Reaganomics, which is the exact opposite of what this is, because Reaganomics was the trickle down, and that said that if you make rich people even richer, they will, eventually their wealth will trickle down to you, which for 40 years never happened. So this is exactly the opposite. This is literally building the economy from the middle out. This is investing in middle-class jobs, in middle-class neighborhoods, in middle-class manufacturing, and middle-class consumer-driven, items like electric vehicles that we would like to buy. This is made in America. This is everything that they said that they were for but never were able to do because they were so busy kicking all your money, your tax money, back to rich people who would one day, I don't know, give you some. That's apparently what trickle-down was about. They would give you some. I don't know. But, it never happened. It never worked. So why are we calling it Bidenomics, which makes everyone think of Ronald Reagan yet again? We need to call it something else. And I don't know what. Like, I don't know. Econo-Joe? something juicy, like something that would, listen, remember, I don't know how old you are, but if you remember this, then you'll just retch in horror when I say it. Do you remember Joe Mentum? Oh my God. Yeah, that was Lieberman. That was Joe Lieberman was calling Joe Biden's economic. He was calling it. Well, he was saying he had Joe Mentum. He had Joe Mentum. He was going to go straight to the top. I don't know, but we should call it something. Joe Juice. I don't know, but not Bidenomics. Anyway, it works. It works so good that we are literally growing faster than any other G7 country after a global economic catastrophe. I mean, it was supply chains were broken because the whole world was involved in a global pandemic, which, the right wing is still telling you didn't happen, or the right wing is still saying was a hoax, or the right wing is still trying to lay blame, or the right wing is telling you that the millions of lives saved were a waste. I don't know. I don't know what their deal is. I don't know what their messaging is on, COVID, or why they want to tell you that the response to COVID, to end COVID, which is ended, as a pandemic, it's endemic. It's probably something that, people will see in their lives forever, like the flu or any of those things. But I mean, the idea that the whole world got hit with a global pandemic and then the whole world had an economic plan for how to get out of it at the end, and the whole world tried their best, and we did it. We did it, okay? And it was the American Recovery Act, okay? That's what did it. It was the investment in us. And some people who were very upset that America got money. Some people who were very, very upset that Americans got, a little extra help to get us through a pandemic, are sitting there telling you that that's what caused inflation. Well, here's how you know they're wrong. I told you at the beginning of the inflationary bullcrap story that they were trying to tell you that inflation was global, and it is, and it was, and it still remains a global thing. And yet when you look at who was able to lower inflation faster, better, and bigger, it's the United States of America. We were the ones who were able to see the bar of inflation go from 9% down below 4%, right? We were able to do that. And so now that you have a compares, now that you can look at the rest of the world, and now that you can see that the rest of the world is still suffering with inflation, Europe still has like 9% inflation, okay? We've got less than 4%. So something tells me that it had absolutely nothing to do with the American Recovery Act in the negative. It had to be a positive thing.
One caller called in with Joeconomy.
Joeconomy.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, see, keep it coming, because I need a new name. Joeconomy. I'm writing it down. Joeconomy. I had Akana Joe. I don't
like
know.
Akana Joe. A couple of listeners like Akana Joe.
It's okay. It's not the greatest ever. I'm sure somebody in the audience could do better, but Joeconomy is good. It's not bad. Except it sounds jokey. You know what I mean? People will riff off of it and call it a joke economy. I don't know. But it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. And the Democrats need to actually begin to talk to each other and to other people who may live in states that are now benefiting from the investment about this.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
The president does have quite a few economic achievements to brag about. The unemployment rate is 3.7%, near the lowest it's been since 1969. With the jobs numbers in recent months outperforming expectations. We've also seen the inflation rate cool significantly from the highs we saw this time last year, from over 9% to now 4%, which is much lower than what most other countries are currently experiencing.
Look at that.
And that's not an accident. It is the direct result of some of the policies Democrats have passed and President Biden has signed into law, like the Inflation Reduction Act, the CHIPS and Science Act, and the Infrastructure Bill, which some Republicans are now actually trying to take credit for, despite the fact that they literally voted against it. Or, as the great Nancy Pelosi put it, they voted no and are taking the dough. Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville, for example, put out a tweet boasting about how much money his state is receiving for broadband access, money that's straight out of the legislation that he opposed and voted against, and calling it vital for the success of our rural communities and for our entire economy. To which the president, in full Dark Brandon mode, replied simply, "See you at the groundbreaking."
See you there. I mean, it is an amazing thing. It's totally amazing. When you look at the entire G7, when you look at the 7 largest economies in the world and their recovery, and that we, the United States of America, are outpacing them in job growth, in GDP, the growth of our economy, and that inflation in the United States is lower than it is in any of the other large economies in the world who also suffered from the same things that we did, broken supply chains and closed, businesses and people unable to fly or travel or tourist stuff or travel for business or do any of those things. And you look at our recovery compared to theirs, ours is much, much more robust. And that's because we have a president who did what our president did, and the rest of the world has whoever they have, and they're doing okay, but we're doing better. And the reason why we're doing better is because of things like the infrastructure bill, which is a bipartisan effort, the Chips and Science Act, which isn't a bipartisan effort, the American Recovery Act, which isn't a bipartisan effort, okay? And the surge that's being driven by the construction of factories, of manufacturing plants across the fruited plains. The Rust Belt is no longer going to be the Rust Belt, okay? We are literally building plants in places where Joe Biden was not voted for. He doesn't care, okay, that you didn't vote for him. He is your president and is showing you that 8 ways to Sunday, okay? Showing you that the Chips and Science Act was supposed to do exactly what it is doing, and that's build places to work, build manufacturing plants in places where manufacturing and deindustrialization have occurred. It's not just the subsidies that's, worth tens of billions of dollars for companies to make all kinds of, essential products like semiconductors for electric cars and all the components here at home, here in the United States. It's not just that. But it's driven by a whole load of things that he invested in. And it's being matched by private investment. So that's why it's, taken off the way it has. It's not just the subsidies, it's the private investment too. And the private spend has doubled. Construction spending by manufacturers in the United States has more than doubled in the past year, reaching an annual rate of $190 billion in April. That's April, May, June, July. It's now 3 months later, but that's the last number I have. So it looks like, everybody was waiting to invest in America for America to invest in America. And once America invested in America, everybody said, okay, we'll see your investment and we'll match it. And we'll do even more than you do in subsidies, okay? And we're leaving behind every other industrialized economy in the dust. We're doing so much better than every other industrialized economy in the world. And this is the critical part, is we're beating Asia. We're actually, where Donald Trump sat there and said, tariffs and taxes and, poor farmers, who had worked their entire lives to build these marketplaces for their soybeans in Asia. Farmers all across America who were trying to compete with, corporate farms, with giant industrialized corporate farms, had eked out, a marketplace in Asia to sell their soybeans. And when Donald Trump decided that he was going to play a, trade war with with President Xi, and lost, by the way, all those farmers had their marketplaces disrupted or ended or somehow, impinged on or impeded or just broken. And Donald Trump decided, I'll just pay them. I'll just give them, tax dollars. Well, these farmers didn't want tax dollars. They wanted the fruits of their hard work. They wanted the fruits of their labor. They wanted the marketplaces that they had grown overseas to continue to buy from them. And they wanted to keep on planting and growing and continue to sell. Well, Donald Trump made that near impossible, okay? But now when you look at the investment that, the subsidies that were put towards manufacturing plants, building them in the United States, and now you see manufacturers themselves are saying, yeah, that's good. We'll take that deal. We'll take that deal and we'll put our own money on the table. Now, all of a sudden, you can see that we're beating the industrial heavyweights of the world. We're beating Asia. We're beating Germany. We're beating Japan. They're stable from pre-pandemic levels, but we are excelling. Okay? And we let Asia take over the world as the world's factory powerhouse. And now it's us. That's how you win. That's how you win, against Xi. That's how you win against, markets that you want to compete with. Chips and Science Act, yes, signed last year. It offers grants and tax credits for semiconductor manufacturing in the United States. It is the critical portion in the surge of manufacturing that we're seeing in this nation. The other surge that we're seeing is in infrastructure. Okay, that is the bipartisan infrastructure act that was passed, and so that's why you're seeing things like orange barrels all across Michigan, where they're building roads and bridges and public transit and water, and that's why you see these rural places that were not connected by broadband suddenly enjoying broadband, and you see these front-running phonies who voted against it. Over and over and over and over, voted against anything that had Biden's okay, that had a thumbs up from Americans. Anything that we thought that Democrats knew was going to increase our prowess in the world, our competition, our competitive nature, our competitiveness. They were against it because they didn't want Biden to have a win. So they were against every single thing. Now, you remember some of these bills were supposed to be bigger, right? You remember how hard we were fighting at the beginning of the Biden administration to get a bigger, better, and we had to, spread it into two parts. They had to break it up. And you remember Pramila Jayapal, who was head of the Progressive Caucus? She was so determined to get this big bill through, and it just couldn't happen. It wouldn't happen because of the stinking Republicans and their complete objection to letting America win if it won when there was a Democratic president. I mean, literally, we should suffer another 4 years because they won't have it. Well, so we had to split the bill into two pieces, and we were able to do an infrastructure piece that did get bipartisan support and the Science and Chips Act, which didn't. And the critical part is the Chips and Science Act. That's what's building, all of these factories now across the United States. Well, I will tell you, that today Biden gave a little speech in South Carolina. He went to South Carolina for a couple reasons. One, because South Carolina was the difference between him being the Democratic nominee and him not being the Democratic nominee. As you will remember, right? That James Clyburn, when he endorsed Biden, put him over the top, and he was able to become the Democratic nominee. So he went there to return the favor, and he also went there because South Carolina is now going to be an early primary state for the Democrats. And he went there to say, hey, listen, I don't care who's for it now, and I don't care who was against it then. All I know is you guys are going to do really well with it. You guys are doing well with it. You guys are seeing broadband. You guys are seeing, factories. You guys are seeing manufacturing. You guys are seeing the end of the Rust Belt days. You guys are seeing, good paying jobs. And that's all I care about. I mean, it was a nice moment. It really was.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
The president's plans are working. We are seeing, as you pointed out, low unemployment, high job growth, low inflation. I mean, it's really amazing what is going on in our economy right now. And people have this tendency to move on to the next thing. And of course, we've got big challenges, but the president's plan is working. Here in Michigan, we're going to be getting $2.4 billion for broadband, and it will apply to rural communities as well as urban communities. 99% of the households and businesses in Michigan will get connected because of what President Biden has done. So Bidenomics is working, and I think people are going to see it when they're driving. They're seeing the orange barrels. They're seeing the work being done, and they know that it's when Democrats lead and when President Biden is leading, our lives are getting better. Our standing in the world is getting better. And I think that's something all Americans benefit from.
It is. It absolutely is. There's no question about it. So that's Gretchen Whitmer, who, by the way, if I don't know how to say this properly without peeving some people in this audience by saying it incorrectly, right? But you know what I'm saying. She's presidential material. Let's put it that way. I mean, if God forbid, you know, something changes before I vote in 2024. And someone has to step up to the plate and throw their hat into the ring from the rank and file of the Democratic Party, right? I'd pick her. You know, Howard always says, who's next? You know, like if something happens to, you know, I mean, this is what people talk about, not on the air because nobody wants to put it out there in the atmosphere. I definitely don't want to put it out in the universe, you know, that something bad would happen. But everybody, you know, always asks me, well, who do you think? Who do you think would be, you know, who do you think would be, you know, because I don't think the Democrats have anybody. I always hear that. The Democrats, we got plenty of people, okay? We got Arizona, we got Michigan, we got some really, really seriously good governors in this country that have shown executive prowess, that have built legislatures that have produced an extraordinary amount of good for the people in their state. Okay, and Gretchen Whitmer is one of those. Katie Hobbs is another one in Arizona. I mean, there are so many decent governors in this country who have done incredible good for the people of their state. I mean, Michigan, we went through that long list of incredible progress that, you know, Michigan, because they have a Democratic legislature, to go and match Gretchen Whitmer's wish list and to actually, you know, see what when Democrats' priorities are passed, ordinary people do really, really, really well. When Republicans' priorities are passed, the wealthy get wealthier. And there is your choice. That's it. That's what we get. We get one of two visions for this country, because that's all we get are two parties and two candidates in the end trying to compete for 270 electoral votes, and that's all she wrote. That is the entire nature of the presidential contest, okay? Everything else is just, you know, it's window dressing. Everything else is, you know, fake debates and the caucuses in Iowa, and Mike Pence is greeting, you know, the evangelicals, and he does really well in Iowa. Yeah, Rick Santorum did really well in Iowa, too. Every loser that ever came down the pike for the Republican Party did really well in Iowa. So I don't even want to hear about their window dressing at this point. You know, I'm much more interested in who left the baggie of Coke. Really, I'd love to know. But honestly, the Democrats, when they have, you know, a working majority, when they and I, you know, in the United States legislature, in the federal government, I mean, yeah, you know, they have the House by 4 votes, so we can make bipartisan deals in the House. The Senate, obviously, we have a majority, but not the 60. And so that's why so much is such a long, hard slog. And still, Joe Biden has produced an amazing amount of progress for the American people. I mean, I need to close my email because that's what you're hearing. But before I do it, I wanted to show you a chart. Look, see this. You can put this up on the screen. So this here is the growth since the pandemic in major developed countries. Okay, this is us at the top. This top line here, this orangey sort of reddish line that I'm following with my mouse here, with my cursor, that's us, okay? That's the United States. And obviously, the change in real gross domestic product among the G7 for Q3, the United States is beating every other developed economy. And now let's go down to the inflation chart in major developed economies. Okay, so this line here at the bottom, this one that's the lowest in inflation, that's the United States. That's us right there. So we have the lowest inflation and the highest GDP, the highest growth of any of the industrialized nations. Those are the two charts Republicans do not want you to see. Okay, those are the two charts that they really, really do not want you to look at. Because if you did, it would be empirical data. It wouldn't be tweets. It wouldn't be disinformation. It wouldn't be misinformation. It wouldn't be spin. It wouldn't be, something that they can, bend or reimagine or lie about. It's just data. It's just the actuality of the world in which we toil. It's the actual numbers, the results. And we did better than anybody else because we had a president that gave a damn, right? So this was a nice moment today, right? This was Joe Biden went to South Carolina, and nobody carried it. Really, nobody carried it. It wasn't on CNN, I don't think. Definitely wasn't on Fox. It wasn't on MSNBC. I know that because I had it on in the studio, and I didn't see any of this. And so it looks like this comes from Bloomberg News, right?
When I proposed these pieces of legislation, I made a commitment.
Forbes.
That I'd be president for all Americans, whether their elected officials voted for the events or not. All Americans. Wherever you voted for me or not. And I've kept my promise. In fact, some analysis have said that the laws I've signed are going to do more to help red America than blue America. Well, that's okay with me because we're all Americans. Because my view is wherever the need is most, that's the place we should be helping. And that's what we're doing. Because the way I look at it, the progress we're making is good for all Americans, all America.
I don't know what all that background noise is. I apologize. It sounded awful. But, okay, so that came from Forbes. And nobody, no mainstream media that I saw carried it. And, it was a nice moment. It was a nice moment for America. It was a nice moment for everybody who works for a living. It was a nice moment for people who are trying to buy groceries. These are good numbers. These are fabulous results. Fabulous. And they just don't want anybody to acknowledge that our way of doing things, meaning the Democratic way of doing things, is better for ordinary, and then we're not so ordinary, we're pretty extraordinary working people. Amazing. Lana in Tennessee.
Oh, great. Can you hear me okay?
Uh-huh.
Brett said I was having problems with my earbuds. First off, I don't know if you remember me. I called a few weeks back at the beginning of the Free Speech TV drive.
I do.
I'm a truck driver.
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay. I just wanted to let you know how when I hung up and I heard what you said about me, it just made my day.
Oh.
It made my year, actually. I was so thrilled.
Let me put you on hold, okay? Hang on. I have to go to a break.
Sure.
Okay, hold on.
Okay, honey. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Hold on. You got it, Brett? Thank you. Yeah, we'll come back. We'll talk to Lana. I also have another person from Tennessee. I don't know, like what the other person from Tennessee. But things are good. And Joenomics, I don't know. Econo Joe, what do we, we have the right man at the right time.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Okay, here are 3 Republicans, 3 of them, okay?
Joe Biden has been a steady, competent leader. He's actually been an excellent president. The country is in much better shape than it was when we came out of the horror of Donald Trump. But he's not getting the credit for it. Why? Because Democrats continue to infight. They keep talking about, is Biden too old? And what about this over there? And then the progressives do this and this one does that. They've got to stop that. This is the reality of the situation. You have to play the game that you're in. And the game that you're in is Joe Biden is going to be the nominee. And he actually has a lot of policy wins that the American people are benefiting from and will benefit from his steady, competent leadership. And guess what? We don't have to worry about him being a national security threat or selling our country out to Russia, China, Iran, or the Saudis or any of our other enemies out there. We have someone who actually believes in restoring the soul of America, that understands the importance of democracy and freedom and rights for everyone, versus Donald Trump and where the Republicans are going. So I'll say it again. Democratic friends of mine, for the love of God, spend this summer promoting Joe Biden's accomplishments and the positive vision for America, and contrast that with what the Republicans are not only saying, but what they've already done and what they're telling you they'll do again.
I mean, it's Tara Satmeyer. She is a Republican, okay? Michael Steele is still a Republican, and the other girl that was sitting there, she's a Republican too. So there was the trifecta of Republicans on the TV praising Joe Biden's prowess, praising his ability, praising his straightforward, economic, march to success, saying how competent he is, saying how, lucid he is. You don't have to worry about him being, some sort of a spy. You don't have to worry about him, feeding the white supremacist machine into a frenzy. You don't have to worry about him and, appointing, lunatic, fringe, right-wing, crazy people to the United States Supreme Court who now believe that their policies are so unpopular that they couldn't possibly sell them to the ordinary American out there. They can't sell them to Lana, who's driving a truck across the United States of America. They can't sell any of their crap to people, okay, because nobody's buying it anymore. And so they're going to do whatever it is that they want to do to bring us back to the 1700s, through the court, through the freaking court. And they're going to legitimize this originalist sin of theirs through the court. I mean, this is a scary time when you think about the forces that are at work. All right, Lana, I'm sorry. I went off on a tear there. Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. And wow, I can't believe that Republicans are saying the message that we need more Democrats out there saying. And I've been saying that to anybody that'll listen in my sphere, and I, quite honestly, I have been thinking this since before I could even vote. I've been paying attention to economics, and it's absolutely astounding, the things that he has accomplished. It was really surprising because he was not my first choice.
Right.
But boy, oh boy, did I,
underestimate him. Yes, everybody did underestimate him.
And I've been completely gobsmacked by his success and his competency. And, competency is a really lowbrow way to put it, actually. I mean, he deserves so much more praise.
Yeah.
But, that really annoys the heck out of me. And something else that was really bothering me, too, was all these latest Supreme Court decisions, particularly the one based on a completely and totally made up case.
You're right.
And how they can let that slide. I mean, I don't understand. We need to come up with some way to remedy that, I think, because how can that possibly, that decision stand when it's based on a fraud?
Well, the whole court is based on fraud.
That.
I know, but if you think about how Gorsuch got to the court, that was a fraud on the American people. Okay, Mitch McConnell literally held that seat open for 11 months. And when you think about the same argument that was used in reverse to put Amy Coney Barrett on the court, well, then there's at least two members of the court that are there in a fraudulent manner that have held themselves out as being somebody, above the fraud. They're not above the fraud. And of course, Kavanaugh and Clarence Thomas were both credibly accused of sexual harassment by two completely credible women.
Right.
So the court, as it stands now, is a fraud. And unless and until we get real serious about expanding it so that at least it matches the number of, appellate circuits that we have, appellate courts that we have, 13, which is a way that we have, drawn how many seats should be on the Supreme Court before, right? So it's something that we've done before. It's not new. It's not political. It's something, that we've done to design, how many seats the Supreme Court needs to have, right, to keep up with progress. So until we actually start saying that out loud and not being ashamed of it, and listen, we're gonna have to talk Joe Biden into it because right now he's not coming along with my idea.
I know, and it really is distressing, and the only way, because when I think about the Supreme Court right now, I literally get sick to my stomach.
I know, you should.
Just the things that they're doing, and it's just, you feel so frustrated.
I'm going to tell you this one's really going to rattle you, okay? Because this one really rattled me. Okay, so the
Lay it on me.
Okay, the next term of the Supreme Court, which the oral arguments start in October, and then every summer we have to sit there and hold our breaths and see what will they do now? What will they take away from us now? Right? Well, next year they're going to hear a gun case. that actually says that men or women with restraining orders for spousal abuse, okay, can actually have guns, that it would be unconstitutional in their originalist version of the Constitution to ban somebody who beat their wives from being able to buy a gun, because in 1776 we didn't have a law like that. I'm serious.
Oh.
And they're
oh, wow.
Right. And they're saying,
I just got a major blood rush down to my toes.
I hear you. I did too. When I first saw the story, I was like,
whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I know.
Oh, wow. That's really going to give me a lot to think about behind this wheel.
Yeah, because they
and something I didn't need.
I know. I hate to pile on, to your distrust and dismay in this particular Supreme Court, but it's there for a reason. Okay, you're right to be fearful of them. That people who are accused of domestic violence have a right to own a gun, because they said that when this country was founded, and this is what originalism is. Remember yesterday I was telling you.
Yeah, of course.
Originalism says that whatever the founders envisioned is what it should still be. And back then they didn't think that women's lives were worth saving, because women didn't have the right to vote. Women couldn't own anything. Women were chattel. They were the property of their husbands. And they would like to go back to that. I'm not kidding. I'll play you a report about that. I mean, it is so sick and twisted that they would want to bring us back to the 1700s, but they do. And the more that you see the kinds of things that they're saying and doing, the more you know that's true.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Okay, here is a report on the Supreme Court to weigh whether or not domestic abusers have a constitutional right, even if they're under a restraining order for violence, to have a gun. The originalists, the original sinners on the Supreme Court, the originalist sin, they say yes. They say yes, you cannot keep somebody who beats their wife or somebody who tortures their spouse physically from accessing a firearm, because when the country was founded, there was no such law. I swear to God.
His anger was not controllable.
For many victims of domestic violence, everyday life is hell on earth.
It can be something as simple as me doing my makeup. It'd be a breakdown. The fights will start.
We spoke with a young mother who doesn't want to be identified because she is now in hiding after fleeing years of abuse that took a potentially deadly turn.
He started intimidating me with his guns. I fled. That was the breaking point.
The guns.
The guns. Yeah.
She sought a restraining order, but proving her case was tough. A judge initially refused to grant one and denied her immediate sole custody of her child.
I know I'm no good dead, so I had to leave her.
It's okay.
I had to leave her. I had to allow her to go back there.
After repeated attempts, she got custody and a restraining order, forcing the man she accused of abuse to relinquish his guns.
The hope is them removing their guns or have to turn in their guns, will keep you safe.
That sense of safety was shattered, she says, after a new controversial federal court ruling that lets certain people accused of domestic violence keep their guns.
The Fifth
Circuit Court of Appeals in Texas looked at the case of a man who was challenging the federal law that bans guns for people who are subject to restraining orders.
The court, covering Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, ruled that law was unconstitutional, calling it an outlier that our ancestors would never have accepted.
Our ancestors.
Language the Supreme Court also used in a New York ruling last summer.
This is strictly because domestic violence was not considered a crime by the founders. Was it a law back then? Does it have roots in our American history and tradition? If it wasn't, then it doesn't have to stand.
It's devastating.
The ruling has stunned domestic violence victim advocates like Carmen McDonald with the Los Angeles Center for Law and Justice.
It's not even logical. 230 years ago, women didn't have the right to vote. Slavery was legal. Domestic violence laws weren't even on the book. Marital rape was legal.
U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland blasted the circuit court ruling, petitioning the Supreme Court to decide on the case. DOJ telling the high court more than 1 million acts of domestic violence occur in the United States every year, and the presence of a firearm increases the chance that violence will escalate to homicide.
And they don't give a rat's ass. Women are not to be protected because when we founded the country, women weren't full humans. Women weren't people who could own anything. Women weren't people who could vote. Women were allowed to be raped by their husbands. Women were the property of their husbands and nothing more. And they would like to go back to the original intent. This is what originalist sin is all about: punishing women, shaming them, violating them, hurting them, abusing them, giving them no place in law to hang their hat on, okay? No place in law to go when their husbands are either raping them or beating them or threatening them or pointing guns at their head. No place to go. And you know that's true because Herschel Walker was very popular, especially after the held a gun to his ex-wife's head story became the story. That's when he actually, rocketed to popular stardom as a viable candidate, right? Because the misogynists out there, they love this idea. This is the white supremacist, literal misogynistic, QAnon freaky nature that just percolates inside of the Republican Party and has been given permission to be that, to be hateful, to be bullies, to be misogynist, to rape women, to say we don't want to go back to the 1860s, we want to go back to the 1560s. You've heard them say that. You've heard them say they want women covered. Right? This is who they are, and they keep showing you who they are. And now we have people who graduated Harvard and Yale sitting on the Supreme Court who are down with that crowd, who are saying, yeah, that's what we want to do. That's exactly what we want to do. That's what Amy Coney Barrett's crowd is all about. That's what the handmaids are all about, the women of praise. That's what the religious right is all about. That is what they have morphed into, and that is what they want enshrined in law. Let me tell you what the Texas case was. You saw, like a piece of paper in that report. Okay, so that's a guy named Zaki Rami, okay? And he is a drug dealer in Texas. And his partner, the woman he lived with, got a restraining order in February of 2020. This is the case that they're going to hear, okay? So this guy, Zaki, in an incident in Arlington, Texas, in a parking lot the previous year, recounted by the federal government in court papers, those were the court papers you saw, Rahimi was accused of knocking a woman to the ground, dragging her to his car, pushing her inside the car, knocking her head on the dashboard in the process, fired a shot from his gun at a bystander after realizing the bystander was watching him do this to this girl. And this girl was able to survive it and got a protective order. While the protective order was in effect, he was implicated in a series of shootings, a series of them, including one in which he allegedly fired bullets into a house using an AR-15. This is the federal government's documents, okay? This is, one of the protective orders. He was facing state charges for the domestic assault and then another assault against a different woman. He was prosecuted separately by the Justice Department for violating the federal gun restriction law. But before the Supreme Court had issued its new gun rights ruling in this Bruen case that I keep trying to remind you of, they argued that his case should be dismissed because his Second Amendment rights were being violated. Once they did the Bruen case, okay, then all of a sudden his argument became real. And the Fifth Circuit Court, who held that he didn't have a right to have a gun while he was, being while he was under a restraining order for physical violence against two women, they reversed themselves after the Supreme Court said you can't take away his Second Amendment right to own a gun. You can't. And so the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, who originally said he can have a gun, they reversed themselves after the Supreme Court did the Bruen case, the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruen, which requires judges to focus only on whether the gun laws comport with the historical understanding of the Second Amendment. Well, I got news for you. The Second Amendment envisioned at the beginning a well-regulated militia. Just saying.
Fatality. This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
I know there's a hesitation on expanding the court. I am a recent convert to this, but if you believe that truly we're in a moment where democracy and our rights are falling, if you will, that we're a nation that suffered the injury of January 6th, that we have a presidential candidate who may win, who is promising retribution for the next 4 years, that we've seen a court roll back civil rights, voting rights, protections of equality, and certain fundamental rights we believe we had. If democracy is in that much peril, it is not a big case to make to expand the number of seats on the court. And there is historical precedence for it, right? We know that the Constitution doesn't say there has to be 9. The number of court justices has changed, I believe, 6 times. It's been 150 years since. There's currently 13 appellate circuits or appellate districts. You could align the justices with the number of appellate districts as once was done in history. I think Democrats can make the case substantively on protection of rights, but also a clear analytical case for why this is an era in which we can consider expanding the court. And then the passionate arguments about McConnell stopping Merrick Garland and greenlighting Barrett are just fuel to the fire for what is a rational argument.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's what needs to happen. Now, what's interesting is all the voices that you heard today praising Joe Biden and all the voices that you heard today saying anything about expanding the court or protecting women were Republicans. That there was David Jolly. He is he was a former Republican representative from Florida who actually quit. Just said, that's it, I'm done. I don't want to be part of this Fiesta Bowl of bozo-ness. And he didn't run again. And now he's, a pundit that comments on, legislation and things that go on in Congress. But David Jolly is a Republican. Tara Setmeyer is a Republican. Donnie Deutsch, last time I checked, I don't know what he is, but he's saying Ron DeSantis is dark, dark, dark. He's like the Prince of Darkness, okay? I mean, almost everyone that you heard today tell you that we're in much better hands, including Donald Trump's little clip there that says, I don't know why, but the economy does better under Democrats than it does under Republicans, has been a Republican. Okay, and so this is the dirty little secret that they know, and that is why they are fighting a culture war instead of bellyaching about policy or saying that we get it wrong or saying that Democrats don't know how to build an economy or saying that Democrats don't know how to build a middle class or saying, because we do, and everybody in this country does better when democratic policies are in place. No one will do better if the Republicans get hold of this here government again. If Donald Trump uses this government to retaliate against perceived enemies, we're going to be in a death spiral in this country. I mean, it is going to be the end of voting. It will be the end of democracy itself. It will be something that we've never seen here, something we won't know how to do because we've never done a fascist thing before. We've never done autocracy before. We've tasted it. We've seen what corporate dominance looks like, okay? But we've never lived in a place where we couldn't vote. Some of us, women have, but not in my lifetime. African Americans have, but not in your lifetime. And that's where they want to take us. And they would like for everything old to be new again. They would like for the original intent of the founders to be deployed against people who they view as 3/5 of a person, against people who own homes like me, who shouldn't own homes because, apparently I have ovaries. And that's an estrogen-bearing being has no rights. Where you get to kill people because they come into your driveway. I mean, this is craziness. This is madness. But that is really what's going on in this country. And the Supreme Court's next session is going to be doubly worse. I mean, listen, last session, the one that we just finished, was bad. It was ugly. It was fugly because it was fraud. That's why the F goes in front of the ugly, because it was full of fraud, fraudulent plaintiffs, fraudulent cases, even the affirmative action case against Harvard. I showed you there are the largest majority of minorities in Harvard in the class of 2027 is Asian Americans. It's like 29% of the graduating class of 2027 will be Asian Americans. Okay, 15% will be African Americans. 29% will be people who were admitted because their parents went there, or because their parents are donors, or because their parents are staff members. And of those 29%, 70% of those affirmative action recipients will be white people. So, I mean, who are we kidding here with this? The affirmative action case was bogus, okay? It was an absolute, a manufactured out of whole cloth thing. It was brought by a white conservative guy named Blum, who has been arguing for 10 years now against affirmative action. And he finally, he literally, here's the story, okay? I'm going to show it to you.
The court also ruled in favor of students for fair admissions in killing affirmative action in college admissions. Except Students for Fair Admissions involves no students.
No
Just
students.
a 70-something-year-old white conservative activist named Ed Blum, who's waged a long war against anything race-based in public life. Blum orchestrated the challenges that led to Shelby County versus Holder, the court ruling that gutted Black voting rights, and later recruited white student Abigail Fisher in his previous unsuccessful attempt to kill affirmative action in a case against the University of Texas. After that loss, he pivoted, at one point telling a Chinese-American group in Houston, quote, "I needed Asian plaintiffs," but Ed Blum didn't find any. No Asian American students testified against affirmative action. The Asian students who did testify did so in favor of affirmative action. But that didn't matter to this court. It helped that the dean of the School of Legislative Jurisprudence, Clarence Thomas, had his own long desire to kill the program he himself benefited from and thus to pull the ladder up behind him. The same Clarence Thomas whose own votes in cases like Citizens United have pushed dark money into our politics and whose billionaire benefactors do more than just pay for financial goodies and treats for him personally. They also hate the things that he and his right-wing colleagues are so eager to overturn, namely the will of the people.
Seriously, dude, this court is out of control. It doesn't want to do any controversies on cases that exist. It wants to manufacture cases so that it can rule under the original intent of the founders and say that, when the founding happened, we didn't have a 13th Amendment, We didn't have a 14th Amendment, which was very race conscious. 13 and 14, very race conscious. One was banning slavery, race conscious, and the other one was equal protection under the law after Reconstruction because people wouldn't do it. They didn't want to serve black people. So the 14th was very race conscious. And now all of a sudden they want to get rid of it because that wasn't present at the founding. Neither were, women being able to be anything other than their husband's property at the founding. Listen, be very forewarned. This is a bad, bad, ugly road that they are going down. You talk about activist judges and legislating from the bench. They see themselves as a super Congress to be used to do all the things that Congress can't do because these things are so unpopular. So unpopular. People want gun legislation. Now they're going to take a gun case that says whatever was the original intent at the founding, that's the law. That's the law. So if a man at the founding beat his wife and was still allowed to have a musket, then a man today who beats his wife should be allowed to have a 9mm or a long gun or any gun at all or any amount of guns at all, even though if you really, really looked at it, you'd understand that when it was enshrined in the document itself, a well-regulated militia being necessary was the provision in the Second Amendment. That doesn't exist anymore. So maybe they'll do away with the, National Guard and then deputize all these men again. I don't know. But this is a sick and twisted, decision that we're going to be facing next summer. Next summer. Steve in Washington.
Oh, hi, Randy. Love your show. I just wanted to put something out there. We're ahead of the G7 in leaps and bounds. Can you imagine what it would be like if we would have had a majority in the House and 60 senators in the Senate?
Yeah.
Well,
can you imagine if the Supreme Court, didn't insert itself into Bush v. Gore and Al Gore had been president instead of W?
Exactly. We wouldn't be here.
There wouldn't be cocaine in the White House.
One more thing.
Yeah.
President Biden needs to have his Secretary of Education reinstate civics into our education.
Yeah, it would be great. But, you're not allowed to teach real history anymore, even though we're going to be governed as if it were 1776. That's what they have in mind for us. Forget progress. Oh, hell no. If it wasn't the original intent, then do you know how much blood is going to be on their hands if they actually do that? I mean, listen, they've already decided that, everybody has a right to own a gun outside of the home. Go for it.
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
It's $5 Friday, you bastards.
An astonishing milestone this week. Monday and Tuesday, the hottest days ever recorded on Earth.
What?
Here in the U.S., Americans feeling the brutal summer heat firsthand. Over 20 million under heat alerts today.
It's really hot, really humid.
Central Florida reaching a triple-digit heat index Wednesday.
It's so hot. I want to move out of Florida. My body's not made for this type of weather.
Local emergency managers putting extreme weather plans in place.
Just last year, we activated the plan twice, and it was only for a couple days. It's now been active for over a week.
Connecticut's governor also activating statewide extreme weather protocols to protect residents from brutal temperatures. Sarasota, El Paso, and Portland all seeing record highs Wednesday. And in Tucson, Arizona, it was a staggering 107 degrees. Summer's only just begun.
Always parks that have sprinklers. We carry a lot of water. We spray them down all day.
But the sweltering heat is already in full force.
Drinking a lot of Gatorade, water, staying hydrated.
And temps still spiking with that global record. Even with half the world in winter, the average global temperature at 62.6 degrees Monday, and even higher, 62.9 on Tuesday. Climate experts warning this is not a milestone to celebrate.
We're pushing our ecosystems and our climate into a different place than it's been for the entirety of human civilization. And that is alarming.
Oh! Hello, everybody. It's alarming. It's hot enough for you? I guess we have an answer to that question. Is it hot enough for you? It's Africa hot. Except we're not in Africa. It's freaking hot. I mean, this is the third record-setting day, 3 days in a row of record-setting heat. You know, I just wow.
You know what it feels like a little bit to me is when I first moved to Florida. How I felt then, just constant humidity. Step out in the middle of the night, just start sweating. That's how I feel again. It's all brand new again.
So. I'm going to start using Celsius is what I'm going to do, because I don't know if you realize this, but 120 degrees Fahrenheit is 49 degrees Celsius. So there, I just solved the problem of global warming. I cut it in thirds. I cut it by two-thirds just by using Celsius. So that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. I don't know how else to deal with it. I just, I don't understand cow farts. I don't understand, why we can't eat meat. I don't understand, why I can't use hairspray anymore. I don't get it. I'm not clear. I mean, the Koch brothers said we could burn fossil fuels. The Koch brothers said that coal was good. Everybody in the Republican Party says, coal is everything. It will save, the coal miners. They need the work. They need the... If it ever cools down again, it will be a cold day in hell, because this, everybody, is hell. Man-made hell. This is hell on earth. This is what we've made. And I know that because I listen to Joe Rogan for my religious advice now. What the hell is that? I don't know. It just sucks you on in. Just sucks you in. Next thing you know, you're listening to, I don't know. I listened to 16 Minutes on Hinduism, and now I'm listening to, some guy tell me about how, it's really, this could be heaven. That we are living in heaven. We're just effing it up. I guess I don't smoke enough pot. I guess I don't smoke any pot. I guess I need to start smoking pot and using Celsius, and I'll feel like 1,000% better about the environment in which we have created and for us to toil. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, what is it that, I don't know what anybody can do or will do or won't do, in order to bring down the temperature of the world. This is like sticking a thermometer up the, anus of the world and getting a really bad result and going, I don't know, put it in the hospital. This was something that people were telling you over and over again was happening. It was on. It was warming. It was going to be. And, the first cold day, the first chilly day, the first day of any snowflakey activity, the first day of any, chill in the air, everybody goes, see, where's your global warming now, huh? Well, here it is. I mean, this is really like, the wake-up call that it would take to, get people who refuse to, celebrate or know the science or care about science, and set science, at the level of awe and respect that it deserves over stuff like teaching your children to speak in tongues. I don't know. I don't think that will ever happen for a third of this country. I just don't. I think people will never respect science. They will never understand the world in which they toil or live. And they will actually use every snowy day or every day where the temperature falls below 62 as proof that I'm lying to them. So the only thing you could think of to tell them to do is basically this. Stick a thermometer up the Earth's ass and take its temperature. Okay, that sounds fun. I'll do that.
Think of it like a thermometer for the planet, and it's telling us that we are spiking a very serious fever. We've started to breach the threshold, surpassing the target for global warming set by experts and policymakers decades ago. You may have heard this number. It's the amount of warning that we are trying not to exceed. It's 1.5 degrees Celsius above what's called pre-industrial levels. That is, before we started burning fossil fuels and pushing tons of carbon into the atmosphere. Now, the thing about that number is it doesn't sound like much, 1.5 degrees. It's about 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit, which is closer to understanding what it really means. But if you think about it again like a thermometer, it's like going from a normal 98.6 degree body temperature to spiking a 101.3 degree fever. A 101.3 degrees, you're pretty sick. Like, you're definitely feeling it. You're not going to die. But if you spike a couple more degrees, you're going to probably end up in the hospital. And that metaphor is almost literal because the human body really struggles in high heat, particularly when combined with humidity. A recent heat wave in Texas resulted in hundreds of hospitalizations, at least 13 deaths, 11 of them coming in just one county. 2 others died while hiking at Big Bend National Park in West Texas.
Oh, God.
As temperatures continue to rise, experts are acknowledging that we are more likely than not to exceed that 1.5 degree target. In fact, it's all but assured at this point. The only way to make sure we don't end up producing a kind of global hospitalization or a kind of civilizational heat death is to continue to rapidly expand investment in and deployment of carbon-free energy. And then we got to start figuring out how to take carbon out of the atmosphere at scale. But even if we do that, it's going to get hot and hotter.
It doesn't sound very optimistic to me, but it is a great way to put it. Okay, that was the best explanation I could think of if I needed to explain it to people who just want to have fun and don't want to pay any attention to anything that's real or anything that needs fixing, okay? Then just tell them what we're going to do is we're going to shove a thermometer up Earth's ass, and then you'll see the temperature, and you'll realize that we're all going to need to be globally hospitalized, meaning the whole planet has to go into the hospital. Well, I don't want to pay that bill. Right, you don't. So let's everybody suck in the carbon, like now, before we all die. Hottest day on Earth. On Earth for the 3rd straight day. Yesterday was the hottest day on Earth. Day before was the hottest day on Earth. Today is the hottest day on Earth. We're #1, damn it. It's just like, it's unbelievable. This is all climate change driven. But here's the thing. Haven't I been telling you for years and years and years that even if you don't want to believe it, even if you doubt me, even if you doubt the science, even if you just think that, sweating is your natural going forward look, now, this is what it's going to be. And you're cool with it, you're down with it. Just remember that modifying or changing this trajectory is a multiple trillion-dollar business. Yes, it is. And we would like to be the leaders in the world of that business. And guess what? The economic news, based on doing stuff like that, is really, really good. Really good today. So if you have to learn something, learn Celsius so it's not so hot and go to work at making EVs.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
All right, the only thing hotter than the global, warming is Biden's economy.
Well, here's what we know. 209,000 jobs added in June. That is below what economists expected, and the lowest monthly gain since December 2020. Hiring is slowing, but it is still the 30th consecutive month of gains. CNN's Rahel Solomon here with a read into the numbers. Take us into this report. What are you seeing here?
Okay, so this was the first time, as you pointed out, that this was actually cooler than what economists were expecting. The expectation was closer to 225, 229, and as we can see, the number came in at 209. I should say the prior 2 months were also revised slightly lower. Taking a look at where we added jobs, the U.S. economy added jobs in June, you can see government added 60,000, healthcare added 41,000. Healthcare is especially interesting because, of course, this is an industry that continues to struggle to rehire after the pandemic. So part of that is happening here. And construction, which is really interesting because of what's been happening with mortgage rates. Right. You would think that maybe construction would take a hit, but not in this report, at least. We've been seeing a trend of that, 23,000. June jobs report, that coming in for unemployment at 3.6%. That ticked down slightly from 3.7. Okay, we've been in this range of under 4% for quite some time now, more than a year and a half. So this is the type of report that shows a normalizing, right? I wouldn't necessarily say a real cooling, but a normalizing, because it is still strong, as you pointed out, the 30th month of job gains.
They cover this all wrong, okay? The freaking media just covers this all wrong. This is amazing. We are at 3.6% unemployment and have been below 4% unemployment in this country for damn near 2 years, you know, the whole time Joe Biden's been the president of the United States of America. We got boom towns now. She's sitting there going, well, how come construction's okay? I mean, you would think that the interest rates on mortgages have gone up so people do. Because we have 35,000 new construction projects, and we've got boom towns in places that used to be called the Rust Belt. Not so rusty anymore, are they? No. And so the idea that the economy isn't, and everybody, we're going to be in a recession, we're going to be, and I don't even tweet anymore, okay? I hardly do. I might post some little clip of the show, but I don't engage with these morons. By the way, we now have another social media outlet for us. I mean, what we need, like, you know, I don't know, 250,000 social media sites, all owned by the same person. I swear to God, this is exactly, you know, Frank Zappa keeps rolling through my brain today. Keeps rolling through my brain. But this is exactly what Frank Zappa was talking about when he said 10,000 green business cards with your name and the wrong address and 10,000 radio stations all tuned to the same station. I mean, this is what it is. You know, you got the Facebook people, okay, the metaverse has now expanded into another social media site because Facebook isn't enough. WhatsApp isn't enough, okay? Instagram isn't enough. They don't own enough of your data. You're the product, you understand, on social media. You get that, right? That's why it's free for you to use, except for Elon, who wants to, you know, suck out another $8 from people that were just so jealous that, you know, I had to jump through hoops to prove that I was really a legitimate journalist so I could get a blue check mark. And now I just say, I'm not paying for that. I'm not paying for that. And being in the same company as people who paid to say that they're legit, whatever. So, you know, whatever. But so now we got a new one called Threads, owned by Zuckerberg. Just the two of you get into the cage and do the freaking cage match. Okay, just do it. And I guess whoever wins that gets to own everybody's data. I mean, this is so sick and sad. Look, can we just please go back to MySpace? I still have my MySpace page. Can we please just go back to like a fun kind of you know what the thing is about Threads? Before you go and do it, before you say, yeah, I want another one, I need to be, you know, like really mentally impaired about who likes me and who doesn't like me, and the way I see myself is going to be determined by this group of people. Oh my God. Let me just warn you that if you do the Threads thing, you will not be able to delete it. Unless you delete or are willing to delete also your other meta properties. If you're not willing to delete Instagram and all the memories you've saved up over the years on your Insta, then just know that you can't delete your Threads account if it gets, unmanageable for you, if it gets a little ugly for you, or if it gets, to be too much for, you to pay attention to. You can't delete it without deleting your Instagram memories, without deleting your whole Instagram account, okay? I mean, this is all just to suck up more and more of your data. And here's another little detail about it. It's only a mobile app. Okay, so Threads is only on your freaking phone. I can't wait. Now, the people who literally are doing like the massive tweeting, the massive stuff, they're doing it on a desktop, okay? Why do I know that? Because I do it on a desktop. Why did I do it on a desktop? Because if you want to put media on there, you have to be able to access a Dropbox, and you have to be able to see what you're doing. And also, if you want to do spell check, all these things, all these different things. And people who have Twitter decks who could see everybody that's saying a bad thing about them or a good thing about them or is neutral about them or isn't reacting to them. I mean, it's craziness. It's madness. But Threads is only on your phone. That's it. That's the only place you can get it. I hate using the phone to type because the amount of crap. First of all, I don't know why, but I think it's from the time that I lived in Costa Rica. I have no idea. But my phone thinks it's Spanish. Okay, my phone does. It doesn't. The first language on my phone, let's just say it that way, is not English. So it's always auto-correcting things that are misspelled in Espanol. I don't know. And I just don't care enough to fix it. I just don't. But, and everybody will call, oh, here's what you do. No, I know. I just don't care enough about it, okay? I really don't care enough about any of this crap anymore. It's become so corporate, okay? It's become so, I'm the product, you're the product. And so here's the thing about the phone, okay? Just be forewarned. On your phone, you probably have, I don't know if you're an Android or an Apple, I don't know. Doesn't matter. But you probably have some sort of a health app in your phone now that's counting your steps or monitoring your heart rate or telling you how many calories you just burned or how many flights of stairs you went up, whatever. Just know that that app on your phone, Zuckerberg's, is going to now have your health information too. It's all about collecting your data and selling it. That's how they make money. That's why it doesn't cost anything to use these apps. That's why it doesn't cost anything to download Threads or to download Instagram or to download Facebook or to download Twitter or any of these things. That's why, because you are the product for them. Your data is what they're making money off of. Now, I know it's hard to contemplate what I just said, so you're going to have to trust me. You are the product. You're the one making them wealthy. Every piece of thing that's on your phone about you, they will get.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, everybody. Happy July. Yes, it's very, very freaking hot, but it is also the start of a new fiscal year. Yes, that's what it is, which may not mean a lot to you, but it means everything to us here at Free Speech because it's a new beginning, a new fiscal year, everybody. So happy New Year. Yeah, and I know that, unless you're a business person, that doesn't really, float your boat, but it is a big damn deal to us. And so, because it's a new beginning, we are doing $5 Friday, our very first $5 Friday for the first of the fiscal year to begin. And if you are one of the first, 30 people to make a donation of $5 recurring every month, $5, we will, not only make you part of our beautiful community, but we will actually get you a special year-end gift. We will invite you to events throughout the year. We will send you a free speech TV sustaining member perk. You will get a gift. I don't know exactly what's in it. I could tell you this, though. Last time I talked about the fact that I didn't know what Free Speech TV puts in their mystery box, all of a sudden I did get something in the mail from Free Speech TV, and it was a really good-looking T-shirt. It was a really good-looking one, FSTV on it, and it had some tote bags in it. Those were good, really good. But if you start a new monthly donation today during $5 Friday, you will get a mystery box as well in the mail. That will be a thank you from the people at Free Speech TV to you. If you're already a sustaining donor, consider increasing by $5 whatever your monthly gift has been. That would be a great thing to do. So give us a call to increase your sustaining donation by $5 or more at 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. You can always do it at freespeech.org, as you know. Or you can text FSTV to 44321, and we'll send you a secure link. You can say you want to make it recurring, and when you want to stop it from happening every month, you just say stop, and it stops. It's just that simple. There is no muss, no fuss. But we will make sure that you get your free gift if you become a sustaining member today with a $5 recurring donation. So thank you very much from everybody that works at Free Speech TV. All right, Jeff in Pennsylvania.
Oops, I didn't mean to throw the phone in your head.
Huh?
Shit. Yeah.
Okay, then.
Wow.
What was that, Brett?
Well, no, what, Brett? He was ready when I left him on hold. He had a topic just a couple minutes ago, just before we came out of the segment, and he wanted to talk about the Republicans ignoring the climate change and not saying anything about these record days. That was his topic. I don't think we've had anybody more unprepared in that small
He
amount
was
of time.
touching himself, Brett.
That was some crazy breathing.
His pants were unzipped. You know that, right? And all that is missing is a laminated photograph of me so that he can wipe it clean and use it over and over again, okay? That man was definitely touching himself, okay?
Touching himself over the climate change.
Yeah, I don't think that's why he called. I
furiously-
really don't. But, as far as the Republicans go, when you're being paid to ignore climate change by big oil and gas, when you're being paid by coal companies to fight the last fight, like Joe Manchin is, what did Joe Manchin get for for his vote on the bipartisan infrastructure package? What did he get? He got a freaking pipeline laid, just like that guy right there was laying some pipe, okay? Same damn thing. That's probably why, he was panting like
It's a
that.
one-man crew, though.
Yeah, laying the pipe is what he's doing. But, listen, that is where their donors are. That is why the Supreme Court rules the way it does, because their donors are, looking to take charter schools and turn them into religious schools. Here's a little factoid for you to know. Charter schools are public schools. Public schools. They are not religious schools. They are public schools. And you watch what they're doing with this one charter school, this one online charter school in Oklahoma, I guess it is. Yes, Governor Twit is actually, they have a Catholic church, supposedly. It's an online school that's religious, that is a charter school, which means it's public, getting public tax dollars in order to be a religious online school. And I think they named it St. Isidore, who I think is the patron saint of the internet. It's like St. Isidore is like the patron saint of social media or some made up thing like that. But the reason why people ignore the preservation of church and state with the separation of church and state, or the reason why people ignore global warming, is because their donors are paying them to do so. Their donors are paying them to pretend that they don't know science, or that they couldn't possibly be explained science, or that they don't know that the Establishment Clause is there for the protection of both church and state, which is, like your natural, it should be your natural inclination, is to protect as much of the ideas that float around in human heads as humanly possible in our Constitution. You should want so much freedom that ideas, no matter whether they're ideas you would agree with or ideas you disagree with or ideas that are good or ideas that are bad, they get to live, they get to be discussed, they get to be, protected. But you understand that the global warming disaster doesn't protect the basic planet, which should be in violation of religious doctrine, right? Because God so loved the earth, right? They are so completely indoctrinated by money. That is their God, okay? And that's why the Republicans don't mention anything about global warming or climate change, okay? It's ridiculous because it is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. And people who are starting to benefit from that investment in this new multi-trillion-dollar industry of, clean energy, they're experiencing boomtown situations. They're experiencing an enormous amount of job creation. They're experiencing great paying jobs. They're experiencing an enormous amount of construction in their formerly deindustrialized towns and cities and burbs and everybody that wants to know it can know it, and even people who don't want to know it are seeing it. And it's creating a boom environment. Even Fox News knows it. Even Fox News, okay? And, one of the token liberal, well, I don't even know if she's liberal, but the token sane person on Fox, they always hire the one. Used to be, Alan Combs, rest his soul. He was a great man. Just so you know, he was just a wonderful human being. A wonderful human being. But when they went out to pick the liberal, when they went out to pick the token non-conservative, let's put it that way, they went out and they tried, and Alan knew this. They tried to pick somebody who was almost impossible to look at on television. Okay, but he had such a good heart and such a decent personality and such a way about him of accepting all ideas, not as his own, but as things to be discussed, okay? And then after him, what do we get? We got Leslie Marshall for a brief moment in time, and now we have Jessica Tarlov, right? It's always one. There's always a token. It's part of their programming ideology. But Jessica Tarlov was sitting there yesterday going, listen, I'm glad there are boom towns. You know, there are boom towns, and I'm glad that they're in red states. Yay red states. Yay to the states that's, lived through the deindustrialization of their towns, of their cities, of their states. But isn't it time that they started actually getting themselves off the federal welfare dole? Isn't it time that they actually stop sucking the money out of blue states? Because they do,
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Yes, we have boom towns now.
I think it's wonderful that there are new boom towns and boom states, and I think that should be celebrated. I also think that it would be great then if there are these southern Republican-controlled states that they start paying their fair share and take care of Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Kentucky, because I'm sick of taking care of them from up here in New York or in California, because blue states pay the highest taxes, and then those federal dollars get shipped down south to make sure that they have decent schools, they have health care, they have good roads, etc. So by all means, South Carolina, Nancy Mace, who wants to take credit for things she voted against, please give some money to Kentucky, help them out. Tommy Tuberville, talk about you all the time. You should be paying more and taking care of your own people instead of feeding off of Democrats that pay higher taxes.
Yeah, the red states are, sucking up blue state welfare. That's what they're doing, and they've been doing it for a really long time. And, all the blue states, everybody go, well, why blue states are such high tax? That's because we have to carry your ass around. That's why. We have to pay for your schools, and this is why it's such an affront and so disgusting. Although, on top of, let's say, not although, but on top of the fact that if you start mashing religion, like state religion in state schools, in public schools, you're going to have neither a good state or public schools. The idea of the Establishment Clause, the reason why we have a separation of church and state is for the preservation of both. And you start telling people in blue states that they're going to have to start paying, that their tax dollars, because people who live in high tax states, California, New York, they understand where their tax dollars are going. They understand that we are supporting Kentucky and Virginia and Florida's public schools and Mississippi's public schools and Arkansas's public schools. Everybody gets it, okay? We all know. We all know. It's not like we don't know. But now you start telling us that we're going to have to pay for, one of the richest entities on the planet is the Catholic Church, and we're going to have to start paying our tax dollars to support charter schools that are religious schools now. Charter schools are public schools, and there's supposed to be a separation of church and state in these public schools. And Oklahoma is just the first state to start tearing down that wall. Why would we have to pay for Catholic schools? Why would tax dollars be used to pay for... have you ever been to the Vatican? Have you ever? It's such a conundrum when you go there because it is unbelievably beautiful. I mean, it's its own city, it's its own state, it's its own country, the Vatican is, okay? But besides for that, when you go in there and you look at the walls and the ceilings, the frescoes and the not just the Sistine Chapel and the Michelangelo up there, the creation, but the Raphaels, he liked color, And when you look at, the tapestries, my God, they go on and on and on and on down the hallways, It's the amount of wealth, the popes, the previous popes, the dead ones, they're all buried in gold coffins. You can see the gold coffins. I mean, the amount of wealth that is just on display for a place that has as its charge to eliminate poverty. It's a little hard to hold that in your head, okay, when you go there, because you're so busy oohing and eyeing, because the art is exceptionally, it's over the top. It's majestic, okay? It just is. And if you have any feelings at all, the art that is on the ceilings and on the walls and in the floors and in the mosaics and in the tapestries, etc., everywhere you look, it's going to take your breath away. It is. Whether you know what you're looking at or you don't know, it doesn't matter. It's still going to, strike you. And then hold the idea in your head that everything that you're looking at that's moving your spirit, that's moving your soul, is priceless. And that isn't being used to cure poverty, okay? And that it's the wealthy. I mean, it's just they're invested in oil and gas. They're invested in, the same things that, the entire world is invested in. That's how much money they have. And so for me to have to pay high taxes so that I can now support a Catholic online school that's going to teach religion? No, I'm sorry, I'm out. I'm not doing that. I'm not having anything to do with that. And I don't know why it's always the conservatives that bring the cases, the conservatives that get in front of this Supreme Court and say, my religious freedom, my religion. You're not going to have any religious freedom because no matter what your religion is, unless it's this uber right-wing version of Catholicism, unless it's this, it's not going to survive. That's why we have a separation of church and state, so that you can have easy breezy Episcopalian, you can have Lutheran, you can have Hindu, you can have evangelical Christianity, you can have Judaism, you can have Catholicism. Once you start tearing down that wall and say tax dollars have to go pay for the Catholic Church, and that Catholic Church is going to indoctrinate your kids early and often, there is no more evangelical Christianity. There is no more Judaism. There is no more Hindu. There is no more Lutheran, Episcopalian, Methodist. There is no more. There is no more. So that's why we have a separation. And I'm telling you, the whole thing's falling apart. However, I digress. This is all about the fact that we are seeing a wonderful economy, a boomtown situation in many of these places that thought that they would never, ever see jobs come back. They would never, ever see good paying jobs. They would never see salaries of $100,000, $135,000. They would never see, an investment in their communities. They would never see 35,000 projects all at the same time. But that is what we're seeing. And the way it's being reported, I'm just going to quote Jennifer Rubin, who does a great job today in the Washington Post explaining to you how the media is covering the Biden boom, which is really what we should call it. The Biden boom and the Biden boom towns all wrong, okay? She said, she's looking at the way that the economic news is being covered. And she said, she quotes from, she did a fast, look through the newspapers of record. So she looked at the Wall Street Journal's headline this week, and it said, U.S. economy shows surprising vigor in first half of 2023. Then she looked at Axios, and Axios, their title, their headline was, the economy's latest upside surprise. And then she looked at Yahoo Finance, which is, ubiquitous on the internet. Quote, surprisingly strong U.S. economic data keeps recession fears at bay. Why are they continually surprised that investing in the bottom, growing an economy from the bottom up and the middle out actually works? Why are they feigning surprise that our theory of economics works better than trickle down? Why are they doing that? And she said, why are they continually surprised about the economy's strength after 30, she wrote 29, but today was 30, 29 consecutive months of job growth, inflation steadily declining, which is what we were talking about yesterday, durable goods having been up for 3 consecutive months, 35,000 new infrastructure projects, and an extended period in which real wages, the money that you bring home, real wages exceeded inflation. Outsized gains for lower wage earners. She's like, why do they report it like they're all so surprised? Because she then goes on to explain in her big brain, and I love Jennifer Rubin's brain. I mean, I love the way she thinks about things, because the way she thinks about things is the way a realist thinks about things. She said it's because they will never, ever, ever admit that they are wrong. And they've been wrong. They've been telling you we're going into a recession. They've been telling you that there's no such thing as a soft landing. They've been telling you we're headed south. We're going under you can't build an economy from the bottom up. It has to be trickled down. They were wrong. They were wrong, and they've been wrong, and they've always getting it wrong. And so now they have to feign surprise. Who knew? You knew. You knew, because you're in that business, okay? Economics is your business. When you have an economics reporter on the beat at the Wall Street Journal, why? The name economics is in your title, Wall Street. The Wall Street Journal, okay? But they don't want to, justify, they don't want to tell you that they've been wrong. They need to justify their wrongness by telling you, I'm so surprised. Fortune magazine was the only decent headline. It said, economists scrambling to justify their recession predictions. But maybe they were just wrong. You think? And when I tweeted that, remember they said, this one's not going to age well? Yeah, go look at it today.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
Hey!
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Welcome to Threads. If your current social media platform has turned into a dumpster fire, you'll be pleased to notice that our dumpster is brand new and barely smoldering. Yet, some microblogging sites are run by entirely unlikable billionaires. Not ours. Threads is run by a billionaire who, I guess, looks pretty great by comparison. Do we harvest your data? Yep. But don't worry. We own Facebook and Instagram, and we already know your search history. Yes, you should get that rash checked out. You asked for a social media platform that was somehow both better than Twitter and exactly like it. And we were like, I don't know, how about this? Welcome to Threads.
That's a Canadian comedian, okay, that created the Welcome to Threads, video there. His name is Stuart Reynolds. Shout out to you. That was perfect. That was just delish. It was the right amount of time. I wasn't crazy about the music, but it's exactly that. So, this is the new social media platform for those of you who still have a thread of privacy left and a tiny bit of free time to waste. But like I said, remember, they're going to harvest every single thing you do on your phone into that particular platform. I mean, it's just designed to take your health information now. It's just designed to the search information, they already have it, which is why it's just a mobile app now. It's just on your phone. Whatever you have on your phone, Zuckerberg's going to get. It's all his, and it's his to sell. And, and the whole appeal of it is supposed to be for people who are creeped out by Elon Musk, which is a huge demographic, which is why they already got 30 million downloads in the App Store. 30 million people want another social media platform that they can give all their information to and waste their time with and judge themselves by. Yay! I don't know. So it doesn't benefit anybody. Nobody's going to be, feeling really good. Because, look, social media is to mental health the same way that emissions are to climate change, right? And the people that are telling you must actually be on social media and you must actually have, X amount of followers and you must actually have a blue check mark or you must actually have the Rumble, icon next to your name in order to be anybody. They're the same people that are telling you fossil fuels, baby, that's what makes America energy independent. No. So good luck with that is all I can say. Just good luck. Seth in Virginia.
Hey, Randy, how are you?
All right.
So I think what's needed at this time, I think we're really floundering about what to do about the environment, and the fossil fuel industry is never going to change. They're going to try to get every drop of oil on this earth.
That's fine. Let's make what they have worthless.
What I suggest that we do is have a environmental relief day where we don't work, we don't drive, we don't use electricity, we don't consume, we don't add to this problem one little bit, like once a month.
Once a month?
Maybe sooner. Maybe like once every 2 weeks.
Uh-huh.
What do you think?
I don't think anybody's down with you. I don't think anybody will do it. I really don't. I don't think it's something that anybody is going to say, hey, let's jump on the Seth bandwagon and let's not go to work and let's not buy anything and let's not, let's turn on. You know what? It's July. Let's turn off our air conditioning.
Yeah.
Are you crazy? Anybody that is denying global warming right now is in a temperature-controlled room. There's no way they're turning off their air conditioning.
Well, we've got a choice. We turn off the air conditioning or we face the consequences.
No, we have another choice, and that's the choice that I just laid out for you, and that is to make whatever fossil fuels, businesses are selling worthless, to make what Saudi Arabia has worthless, to make what ExxonMobil has worthless. That's another choice. And the way that you do that is you build electric vehicles and charging stations for them. The way you do that is you incentivize homeowners to put solar panels on the roofs of their houses. You actually tell them that, they will get a tax break for doing so. You incentivize the good behavior instead of saying you must punish yourself. You must, set yourself on fire in 107-degree weather. Because I don't think anybody will do it.
All right. I think that's what's needed. But I hear what you're saying.
Well, I'm glad you heard what I was saying, because what I'm saying is actually on. It's happening. That's what we're doing. That's the direction that we are going. So enjoy yourself, because it's going to be a fun ride, and boom towns will be created. A multi-trillion-dollar industry will grow. Just this week, what I see, the first wind turbine farm has just been greenlit. It'll be the third wind turbine farm that's powering American cities. But I think it's the first one in some northeastern city. I can't remember which one it was. But, so they're greenlighting these projects. And by them, I mean the government. The government of the United States of America is... I was telling you the other day, when we were flying over the country, remember I had to go from Florida to Seattle, right? Actually, I was going to L.A., so I was doing the southern route, and we were going over Oklahoma and Texas and all this stuff. All I saw down below were wind farms. So I have news for you. The people who are, telling you they're resistant to it or signaling to you that they're the oil barons or they're not buying into it. I mean, the wind farms were all over Oklahoma. They were all over Texas. They were all throughout the part of the country I flew over. And I was stunned by it. I really was, because you would think, that just talking to people, they're not open to it. They don't believe in it. The wind turbines, the Trumpers, Trump said they cause cancer. Remember that? They cause cancer. They kill the birds. It's also dangerous. That was all paid for. Those ridiculous words were paid to come out of his mouth. Those were the donors making him say that, so that people would be against a multi-trillion-dollar industry called renewable fuels that is going to be responsible for the next boom in the United States. It already is in some places. So I don't think it's, you have to command people to do without. I think what you have to do is enlighten people that, renewables are profitable and that renewables are a humongous opportunity for the United States to lead the world in. Casey and Magaloco.
Hey, long time, Randy. Tell Howard I send my best to him, please. And Neil's looking down. I'm pretty proud of you, I'm sure. Hey, Randy, my question to you is, all right, I've talked to you many, many times the other year. I know you probably remember me and stuff. And, I always say that the Democrats have a winning lottery ticket. After 9/11 with the weapons of mass destruction. We had an opportunity, and we got actually Barack Obama. But it's like it seems like
after 9/11 we got Barack Obama.
Well, no, I'm saying after. I'm sorry. Right after 9/11, after Bush. After Bush's presidency, we got Barack Obama.
Yeah, after 8 years, of wars that we didn't need to fight, and after crashing the economy, we got Barack Obama, and then we handed him the keys and said, "Here, fix this car." He fixed the car, and then they drove it back into the ditch.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. This is where I'm going with this. Is the Democratic Party, is it really this close? Like, I listen to CNN too. I listen to MSNBC. I even listen to conservative radio. I listen to you. I listen to Tom Hartman. I listen all across the board. Okay.
Yeah.
And how in all these matchups, whether it's Mitt Romney or Trump or DeSantis, how is it even close when the whole party went MAGA? I mean, even all those guys, even Mitt Romney started supporting back in the day Trump. The Democratic Party needs to label the Republican Party as nothing but domestic terrorists. I mean, plain and simple.
Why do you think it's close? They lost 3 elections in a row. Celebrate.
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Joe Biden has a tremendous economic record to run on. There's a nifty chart floating around social media. Everyone should check it out. The U.S. has the highest post-pandemic growth in the G7 and the lowest inflation. All the countries we compare ourselves to, 13.1 million jobs created. So yes, all the ones that were lost during COVID came back, and then we're gaining jobs at a faster clip than we did under the Trump presidency. 800K in manufacturing. There are articles all over talking about the manufacturing boom. We know unemployment is below 4%.
And it's been below 4% for a year and a half. Today, it was down again, unemployment was, to 3.6%. The economy is not, cold, but it's not hot, so that we have to, think about raising interest rates, and inflation is being tamed. Of all the G7 countries, we went over this yesterday. I showed you the chart that they don't want you to. I mean, she's sitting there on a major television network, okay, Fox. That girl, Jessica Tarlov, is sitting on Fox News, and they won't show the chart of the G7 nations and how America stacks up to the G7, the 7 largest economies in the world, and how our inflation is the lowest of the largest economies in the world, and our growth is also the largest of all the large economies in the world. They won't even show it. She says, oh, it's on the internet. You have to go look for it. I mean, it's just so painful. But then you get the phone call from, Casey, who's a well-meaning person, okay, saying, why is it even close between Republicans and Democrats? Why is it? Listen, it isn't. That's the crazy thing. And like I said, the media is reporting the economy, the success that Biden has had with his economic policies, with the American Rescue Package, with the infrastructure bill, with the Chips and Science Act. All of these things, every single thing. And if you would have been able to add to it, and we could have without the freaking Supreme Court, who's bought and paid for now. Now we have to consider them as being political instead of being judicial, right? Because we know Harlan Crow's got a painting of him and Clarence and Leonard Leo at the lake. Not a photograph. He had it memorialized into an oil painting. This is what he considers art, that he was able to purchase successfully, a Supreme Court justice who would always rule in favor of the billionaires, who would give them Citizens United so that they could get some of the money too. I mean, it's so sick and it's so sad how the Republicans have paid for what they have inside our government, burrowed deep inside. But it's also amazing how Joe Biden understood the exact fight he was in, understood the lay of the land, if you will, if you must, if you may, and was able to beat them at a rigged game. And it's rigged in their favor. And still he was able to beat them. And nobody wants to give him credit. Nobody does, because they don't like his age. They don't like the fact that he's wise. They don't like the fact that, he doesn't have a booming Las Vegas act going for him, okay? That he's not, a performer. He's a workhorse, not a show horse, okay? And everything he has chosen to do, policy-wise, has worked out. And the idea that they didn't lose the last 3 elections that they were in is something that you're glossing over yourself. So don't call me and say, what about the Democrats? What about... Because it's you that's falling into this belief, this ideology that somehow Republicans are beating Democrats, or Republicans are close in the fight with Democrats, or that the economy is a close call. None of that is true. None of it. If you look at, ever since Donald Trump was elected in 2016, every single election after that, 2018, they lost the House, right? Remember that? Nancy Pelosi became Speaker of the House. Remember? Yeah. And then 2020, they lost the presidency. Remember that? And Donald Trump was so humiliated by that he chose to perpetuate another big, giant lie and get people to do violence because they believed that the lie was true. Well, now Rudy Giuliani, the I don't want to call it a behavioral board. I don't know what to call it. The professional, ethics panel that looked at Rudy Giuliani's law license, whether he should. They said no. They said he should not retain his law license. He ought to, have it. But they don't actually get to take it away. The disciplinary panel only gets to recommend. So the ultimate, a removal of his license to practice law will be in the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. So Rudy's cooked. Okay, all these people that. Why don't I know it's slow? I know especially if you're looking for justice, that's really slow. But the economy is great. Okay, they lost 18 the midterms. They lost 20 the presidential. 22 they lost the midterms. We have the Senate. That was supposed to be the big red wave. Remember that? And that's another thing. The media will not admit that they got that wrong too. They will never tell you that this predicted red wave that they thought they were going to see in 22 in the midterms, and we were going to get hammered and the Democrats were going to get shattered, and they always do in the midterms. You always have the party in power of the party that retains the presidency always loses the midterm. That didn't happen. It didn't happen. We won the Senate, for God's sake. Remember that? And yes, we don't have the House, but only by 4 seats. 4. And one of them is Boebert, and she's about to go down in flames, too. I think the Freedom Crackers just kicked Marge out of their little club. I mean, it's not going well for them, okay? So please orient yourself, that they keep losing. They keep losing, and tell everyone you know that is the truth, that the Republicans can't win. Hence, this is why, A, they want to cheat, right? And B, this is why they're using the Supreme Court as some sort of legislative body now, because they can't pass anything they want to pass because they can't win elections. They can't. Even Kevin McCarthy hasn't endorsed Donald Trump. I wonder why that would be. I'll tell you why that would be. Because if McCarthy endorses Trump and Trump loses, okay, he will be, not only will McCarthy not be the majority leader, but McCarthy will never be the minority leader. He will leave. He's done. He's cooked. So he's taking the best road he thinks for himself, and that is to not endorse Donald Trump. And why would that be? Because Donald Trump is a proven loser. So this crazy idea that's part of the propaganda is seeping into normal people's brains too. It's just propaganda, though. It's not true. Republicans they don't win elections. That's why the Supreme Court is acting as a legislature, and they're acting as a minority majority. And that's why Kevin McCarthy isn't endorsing Donald Trump, because his best bet is to not do that, because Donald Trump is a freaking loser. No, it isn't going to be close. It just might be boring. Real boring, but it won't be close. Not at all. the only person that really makes sense is Christy, and they hate him.
Connect. To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Oh, everybody, happy fiscal new year. I know everybody's celebrating. It is a big thing for Free Speech TV to start a fiscal new year because it's a new beginning for the people that work and toil and love Free Speech TV enough to sacrifice their time and attention to getting you the kind of independent media that you know to rely on, right? And so today is $5 Friday. What does that mean? What does that mean? Well, it means a lot of things. It means if you actually pledge $5, that's it. If you pledge $5 recurring every single month, a $5 donation, then we will send you a thank you gift. We will send you a mystery box. I don't know what's in yours. I can tell you I got like a mystery gift the other day out of the clear blue, and it was fabulous. I got this really good-looking Free Speech TV T-shirt, and I got a couple of tote bags, reusable, for the groceries and stuff. Fabulous, right? Well, if you start a new monthly donation today during $5 Friday, you will get a mystery box in the mail as a thank you from the Free Speech TV staff to you. And if you'd like to get a mystery box, but you're already a sustaining donor, just increase the amount that you give by $5 or more today by calling 877-378-8669 or donate online at freespeech.org or text FSTV to 44321, 44321, and we'll send you a secure link, and we'll get you some thank you gift too in the mail, because we appreciate every single thing that you do in order to help Free Speech TV stay on the air, and it's been doing that for 25 years thanks to you. So $5 Friday, it's on. Please do so. Any way that you choose is fine with me. All right, Ben in California.
Hi, Randy.
Hey, Ben.
Oh, what I wanted to know is, now we have all this demand for oil, for fuel, electricity, but one of the driving things is plastic, and it's never mentioned.
Oh yeah, well,
fracking was a boom for plastic. They get a lot of plastic out of fracking, and we have plenty of alternatives.
Yeah.
So we got to get this demand for oil for plastic. Everybody touches it all day long. You wear it, you walk on it. Every car. It's just plastics everywhere. The newborn babies.
Yeah, but there's a lot of recycling going on with plastics now. So yeah, there is. So
3%.
I know, but it's actually something that companies are doing, and it's it's a good thing. You shouldn't diminish that. Sneakers now sometimes the woven fabrics are made out of recycled plastic bottles. The idea that the plastics in the ocean, are killing, the environment, killing fish, killing, reefs, killing all kinds of things. People get it. That's why, tote bags are a good idea. Instead of getting a plastic bag at the supermarket, people are using recyclable bags, okay? They're doing some small things, and all those small things add up. So, to say, oh, nobody talks about it or nobody does anything, that's just not true. It's not.
I'm sorry that we only recycle something like 3% of recyclables.
Well, that's what you put in the bin. When you put stuff in the bin, it doesn't get recycled the way that you might think it does. But people are repurposing plastics now and making things out of those plastic bottles, making things out of plastic bags, making things out of things that used to just go to a landfill. People are repurposing them. That's kind of cool, and it should be applauded.
Oh, I like it, but it's just not enough.
Right, it's
not. Just a very small percentage.
But it's still
so
small.
What we got to do is replace oil-based plastics. They're not going to stop making oil-based plastics until we get an alternative, and we have plenty of
I just gave you an alternative.
I'm sorry, what?
I just gave you alternatives, lots of them.
Recycling, period.
No,
I'm
not
sorry.
just recycling, but I'm talking about using canvas bags instead of plastic bags. Use paper bags again instead of plastic, right? The way that
that's good, yes.
Okay, so people are doing some of that, and you're just like, well, that's not enough. Well, it's never going to be enough, okay? It's just never, because enough is never enough. And, so what are you going to do? Just trash it as it's happening? Because it's not happening enough or it's not happening fast?
No, I didn't trash that at all. I'm just saying that we need to start bringing in the alternatives when they're actually manufacturing.
Okay, let's do it this way. When you say we need, who's we?
The human race.
The human race does not produce plastic. The human race does not produce, what do you call it? Fracking. Companies do. Okay, so stop saying we, because we as a society, we as a human race, understand what plastics are doing to our environment. We understand, what solar panels can add to our living arrangements. We understand what electric vehicles could do for us. We understand. That's not the we that you should say, okay, that is making a mess of it. The we that's making a mess of it are the donors. The we that's making a mess of it are the Coke industry, the Minnesota mining group, the people, the Exxon Mobils of the world, the Saudis, okay? And even they over there understand that they need an economy that's based on something other than fossil fuels. That's why you see them buying every freaking sports team under the sun.
Well, I agree. I agree with you totally, Randy. I just don't see the subsidies going to, alternative plastics. I don't see
well, then you're not looking.
Any mention of it in any of the people that manufacturing.
Well, then you're not looking, because that's what the CHIPS and Science Act actually does invest in. It invests in green energy. Everything related to the CHIPS and Science Act is related to infrastructure projects using green energy. In fact, you know what I just saw? I saw the project in Philadelphia. You remember that bridge that got blown out by a gas truck, okay? Right. Yeah. Okay, so you had this truck carrying fossil fuels, and it blew up under this, overpass on I-95. And they were able to build it back in 12 days. And you know what materials they used to create these new walls instead of, asphalt, and instead of, the fossil fuel-based things that we usually see in road building, right? The petroleum-based road building materials, they used plastic bottles. They repurposed them.
Well, that's I didn't know about that.
Yeah, and that's because...
That's amazing. I love it.
But that's what we did as a country. That's what we incentivized to build back better.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the idea that you think we need to fill in the blank. No, we're already doing it. That's what I'm telling you. And you need to celebrate that. You need to understand that the infrastructure package, the CHIPS and Science Act, Build Back Better was a huge package. We couldn't get the whole thing passed. Why? Because there was too much investment in green energy, meaning to the detriment of fossil fuels. And it was going to kill their subsidies, which they still get. And yes, it's an affront that we still subsidize the thing that's killing us. But we beat them.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Joe Biden has been a steady, competent leader. He's actually been an excellent president. The country is in much better shape than it was when we came out of the horror of Donald Trump. But he's not getting the credit for it. Why? Because Democrats continue to infight. They keep talking about, is Biden too old? And what about this over there? And then the progressives do this and this one does that. They've got to stop that. This is the reality of the situation. You have to play the game that you're in. And the game that you're in is Joe Biden is going to be the nominee. And he actually has a lot of policy wins that the American people are benefiting from and will benefit from his steady, competent leadership. And guess what? We don't have to worry about him being a national security threat or selling our country out to Russia, China, Iran or any of our, or the Saudis or any of our other enemies out there. We have someone who actually believes in restoring the soul of America, that understands the importance of democracy and freedom and rights for everyone, versus Donald Trump and where the Republicans are going. So I'll say it again. Democratic friends of mine, for the love of God, spend this summer promoting Joe Biden's accomplishments and the positive vision for America, and contrast that with what the Republicans are not only saying, but what they've already done and what they're telling you they'll do again.
Yes, and that she's a Republican. Okay, she is, and so is Michael Steele. Michael Steele was the head of the Republican National Committee. He was the chairman of the Republican Party, right? And he's still a Republican. He hasn't renounced his party. He said he wants to be a Republican so that he can save what he thinks is left of the reputation of being a Republican, right? And people are trying to tell Michael Steele it's over, it's done, it's Trumpified, it's never gonna. But he still wants to fight for the Republican Party because he believes that there should be at least two parties in this country, and on that score, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. Okay, and so kudos to him. But honestly, these are all Republican people that are sitting here, are Republican, media channels, Fox News, telling you Joe Biden's got a boom on his hands. You got boom towns happening all across the United States of America. In fact, they're booming so much that I think blue states ought to tell the red states that are booming, we don't want to carry you anymore. It's time for you to pony up and pay for your own infrastructure projects. It's time for you to pay for your own Medicaid bills. It's time for you to pay for your own public schools. It's time to pay for your own projects, right? We're sick of, floating you, carrying you, hauling you across the finish line. That's how big the boom is. That's how big it is. And then you do have people that are going to constantly complain, this isn't happening fast enough, that's not happening fast enough. Listen, we had the Build Back Better plan. That was the big, big package, right? But we were able to save the really, really important parts of Build Back Better. And the reason why we couldn't pass Build Back Better is because it did away with the subsidies for oil and gas. Why we still pay them on the front end, right? We pay them on the front end to soil our land, okay? We pay them on the front end to drill. We pay them on the front end to frack, to use enormous amounts of water, to squeeze the last little remnants of fossil fuel out of rocks, literally. Well, we wanted to end that, and the Joe Manchins of the world, the Kirsten Cinemas of the world, they weren't down with it. They didn't want to wean themselves off of that money. They weren't in a position to do it emotionally. Chalk it up to that. But we actually were able to do the CHIPS and Science Act. We actually were able to do portions of Build Back Better that actually made the investments in clean energy, that actually, you just saw, like I said, it was New Jersey. That's where it was. There's a whole new wind turbine farm being built 15 miles off the coast of New Jersey. I believe there's a wind turbine farm that powers a good chunk of Rhode Island, and a wind turbine farm that powers a whole bunch of Massachusetts, right? And so we're doing it. We're actually doing it. You know what this is? It'd be like if we lived when FDR was president of the United States and he was doing, the Tennessee Valley project, right? Bringing electricity to the Tennessee Valley, to Appalachia, to the rural parts of the South. And we were criticizing because it wasn't going fast enough. Come on. That's wrong. That's just wrong. You need to focus on what has already occurred in just a year and a half. And in just a year and a half, we have seen a massive amount of growth in this country. Wage growth, GDP growth, a decrease in inflation, a decrease in prices of things. Eggs are no longer $9. I just bought eggs. I go every Saturday. I just bought eggs last Saturday. They were $2.19. $2.19 for a dozen eggs. That's what it's supposed to be. But we have seen far too little coverage of the transformation that is going on in little towns, in rural areas, in aging metro centers, right? The new investment that is going into these places is building plants and creating infrastructure projects and green energy, all related to the CHIPS Act, okay? And it would be nice to know that people who are living in towns like that, people who are living in the Rust Belt, people who are living in deindustrialized portions of the country that see the investment, that can see the orange barrels, that can see the infrastructure projects, that can see the improvement, It would be nice if they actually started calling talk shows and saying, you know, they're building a new plant here, and it's creating thousands of jobs. We just built this bridge over, on 95 after the fossil fuel truck exploded, and it was packed with renewables. It was packed with, repurposed plastics. We're seeing roads built. We're seeing bridges, not just the stuff that we had, but new stuff that we're accomplishing. It would be really nice. Instead of hearing, all these stories about, oh, Joe Biden isn't selling his plan. Joe Biden sold his plan. His plan is actually working. That means it was sold and that somebody bought into it and voted for it and he got to sign it. Now it's up to you to actually notice it and report it and celebrate it and tell friends about it. Friends that are still, subject to the propaganda that is mainstream media. They like the horse race, okay? That is how they make their ratings. They like the horse race. They like the whole, this one against that one. They like making it seem closer than it is. It's not that is not what this is, okay? This is actual celebration time. This is noticing things that are going on. We are living through what will be a decade of economic transformation right now. And did you ever wonder, like, if you lived during FDR's, a New Deal, if you would have, told everybody how great it was? I don't know if you would have, because I don't know if you would have known it. If you didn't live in the Tennessee Valley, it probably wasn't that big of a deal because you already had electricity. See what I mean? Just like right now, you probably, I'm pretty sure you do, have broadband, or you probably couldn't be listening to me because I'm not on the radio except in like 2 places. And I make them carry us live, and that's the only radio we do. But so you have to have broadband, right? Well, there are places in this country that don't, but they will, and they do. Like, some of them just came online yesterday, and some of them came online last week. And some of them will come online next week. For them, it's a big damn deal. That's what I'm saying. Would you have even noticed the electrification of the Deep South if you lived in Michigan or New York or, L.A.? No, you probably wouldn't, but it was an amazing, astonishing achievement. I mean, everybody probably understood the Eisenhower year, where we built the interstate highway system. Everybody understood that because why? Commute times went down. It became possible to move further away from the smokestacks. It became possible to have a little yard in your life. It became possible to get out of the urban centers like, the Bowery in New York or the Lower East Side where my family was, situated, right? And now you can move to Brooklyn. And we thought, wow, we live in the suburbs. We live in Brooklyn. Okay, and then everybody had the same idea. They all moved to Brooklyn. Okay, so now we'll move even further. We'll move to Queens. Let's move to Queens. Oh, let's move to Long Island now. That's all possible because of road building, right? And the same damn thing is happening right now. They are literally investing in, we are investing in and actually seeing 35,000 new infrastructure projects that are not only creating jobs, but are building new roads. And I mean, there's scores of new roads going in right now, and that will cut commute times, and that will open up the ability for people to move, for people to live where they would rather live, for people to get out of polluted, places, people that are drinking, tainted water, like Flint, Michigan, won't have to live there until they clean that damn crap up. Which, if you keep down this road, if you keep going down this road, you will see no more lead pipes anywhere in this country. And if you don't have lead pipes right now, it's not a big deal. But if you do, it is. Celebrate it.
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there? It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Hot enough for you?
In Arizona, residents like Khalil Washington tried to beat the heat Sunday under the sprinklers as the temperature in the state hit 110 degrees or above for the 17th day in a row.
It's like a very dry heat. If you ever stood next to an oven while you're baking something, it's like that.
The U.S. National Weather Service warned of extreme heat for nearly a quarter of the population. Laura Stewart said it's just a fact of life in this part of the country.
Yeah, I mean, it's always something that you have to keep in mind because the heat can kill you pretty quickly if you're not careful about it.
On the East Coast, the problem is rain. New England braced for more downpours. While in Pennsylvania, at least 4 people were swept away and killed in a flash flood.
Oh, my God.
The Weather Service said parts of New England and the mid-Atlantic areas will get hit with storms capable of producing torrential rainfall ahead of a cold front approaching from the west. The areas under risk include major cities like New York, Boston, and Philadelphia. New York Governor Kathy Hochul on Sunday urged residents in her state to avoid travel until the rain passes.
And so please heed this warning. It's just for a short time. Please stay home, stay off the roads until this has passed if you're in one of these designated areas.
The Weather Service said the Northeast could experience impassable roadways, tornadoes, and even mudslides in some areas of higher terrain.
I mean, okay, and so it affected us, okay? It affected us, this epidemic of heat and the epidemic of overloaded grids and the epidemic of it feels just like living inside of an oven or it feels like living inside of a blow dryer. Here in Florida, it feels like living inside of a hot, damp towel that gets thrown over you every time you go outside because it's humid. And you know how they used to say it's not the heat, it's the humidity? No, it's the heat. No, it's the humidity. Oh, no, it's both because we're in a heat dome, you see. So we never even freaking cool off. I mean, it's unbelievable. So what happened was on Thursday here at the Randi Rhodes Corral, at the OK Corral, which was not okay on Thursday, we had no power. We lost power, and our battery backup system has surge protectors built into it. Well, one of ours had a catastrophic failure. Ain't that fun, everybody? So you know what happens when the electricity comes on and goes off and comes on and then boom, surges into your equipment without a surge protector here in Florida? Yeah, you get some fried equipment. So now I'm looking at replacing a whole bunch. If the mic sounds a little different, because one of the things that blew up was the mic compressor. So for those of you who do listen to the podcast with earbuds and stuff, it's going to sound just a tad, just a touch, just a little tiny bit different, because it does to me, because I'm wearing headphones. It sounds just a little bit different to me. But we'll all get used to it. We'll get used to it. And that brings me to this. RFK. What? So here's the story about RFK. Robert Kennedy Jr., Robert Francis Kennedy Jr., the son of Robert Francis Kennedy, the nephew of John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the president of the United States, okay? There's a problem. There's a problem. And here's what the problem is. I know him. I've known him for years and years and years, okay? I knew him from Air America. So that's how long ago I met RFK. He used to do, a couple of shows at Air America. He was a guest. Then I'm not sure if he was on Ring of Fire or if he wasn't. I don't know. Because we were so siloed there. This one doesn't talk to that show and that show shouldn't talk to this show. Whatever. That was the politics there. It was very unfriendly of a place to work. No camaraderie at all. And that's kind of what people, picked up on, that everybody was out for themselves. And it wasn't a good vibe, let's just say. But Robert F. Kennedy used to do, a lot of guest appearances. And I think he had a show on Air America with lawyers. It was about lawyers. And he's a lawyer. And back in the day, every once in a while, we would get sent out to a market visit or be put on the road. Oh, which reminds me, I need to say this right now. Stephanie Miller and I have been on the road together an awful lot. I love her. I do. I think she's one of the most unique talents. She's a special person. She's been a friend to me all these years, through thick, through thin, you name it. This girl is always, always on my side. She's always beside me. She's always with me. And I hope it's vice versa, that she feels the same way. Her mother just passed away this weekend. Her mother was 100 years old. Her mother was a force of nature. I mean, just gorgeous, gorgeous. And suffered from Alzheimer's for, like the last, I'll say 8 to 10 years. And Stephanie and her sister took such great care of her mother, and she just lost her this weekend. And my heart's breaking for her because I just lost mine. And so, you bond, and when you're bonded like that, you reach out. And so I just wanted to, I did talk to her, briefly, but I just wanted to give a shout out to my audience who may not know that that's what's going on her show. Because we do have camaraderie. The girls do. But anyway, RFK, okay, so he was around. I remember back in the day when we would go on the road and stuff, he would be, backstage or whatever, because, we would all be, I'd be back there, Stephanie be back there with her box of wine. Swear to God, it's true. She does drink the box of wine. And, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. started going. And I remember, his environmentalism was the thing I always, remembered about him and admired about him. I think his charity was the River Keepers. But I remember one time we were backstage somewhere. I don't know exactly what city we were in. And he brought in a wounded bird. I think it was a robin. I don't know why. It's an old memory. It could be, a different bird. It could have been a female cardinal because it wasn't all red, but it had a red chest. So it could have been a robin. And he had it in a little box, and the box was filled with, like a straw, whatever. And he wanted to nurse it back to health. And I just remember that about him. I remember what a fabulous environmentalist he was, and that was his driving purpose in his life, and hanging out with Cameron Diaz. She was there too. Let me tell you, she looks airbrushed. I don't know what she looks like now. I haven't seen her in years and years. We barely spoke to each other. He didn't bother to introduce. But I remember standing like 2 feet from Cameron Diaz thinking, she's airbrushed. That's not even a real person. I mean, she looks like she was drawn. You know what I mean? Like a cartoon. Not even real. But anyway, I digress. So he was running around with her, and, the little, bird with the broken wing. And I thought, what a guy, what a man, what a mighty good man. Yes, he is. I want to take a minute or two and give much respect to a man who made a difference in the world, right? Turns out most men are hoes, and he is one of them, because here we are at an inflection point, almost past the point of righting this wrong that is going on in the environment, right? Almost past the point of being able to rectify. Wrecked him, nearly killed him. And he is what I remember as an environmentalist. And now he's become a conspiracy theorist. And I don't understand this disease that has happened in the brains of Americans that is crossing every line that you could possibly cross. I mean, when I say cross lines, I mean the mental illness, the conspiracy theorist can be white, can be black, can be rich, can be poor, can be trash, can be super elite, can be marginally educated, can have gone all the way and have master's degrees in jurisprudence, be lawyers, be doctors, be whatever. And still the mental illness of conspiracy theories permeate and percolate and scramble their brain. And it may be the one unifying force we have. I don't know. Maybe I should just jump on in full throttle and become a conspiracy theorist, because it seems to be a very unifying mental illness where nobody sees color anymore. Nobody sees, well, I will tell you that if you're a conspiracy theorist, eventually you're going to end up blaming the Jews, which he did. It's always the Jews. In conspiracy circles, you will always, always end up blaming the Jews. And RFK Jr. went there.
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
All righty, everybody. There's a lot going on. I haven't talked to you since last Wednesday. Gary in Fort Lauderdale.
Hello, Randy.
Hello, Gary.
Hey, would you like to hear how climate change is affecting one of your listeners directly and personally? I mean, I don't want to talk about myself, but I mean, it is something that's happening to all of us, and it's affected me now.
Yes.
All right. As you know, I sell live fishing bait.
Yep.
They're little fish.
Yep.
Like sardines, kind of. And I keep them in cages in a dock behind my house, and I normally lose about 10%. And that's because they get hooked badly or they get dropped or whatever, and it hurts them and they don't survive. Well, all of a sudden this weekend I ran out of bait because like 30 to 40% of them were all dead. And it was because the water is so hot. And I got a delivery.
They're suffocating.
They're suffocating. It's so cruel what they're going through, you know, but I mean, it's like, what am I supposed to do? So this afternoon or this morning, I got a delivery, and I only took half as many as I normally would get, and I spaced them out farther apart in the cages so there's less of them competing for the oxygen because there's less oxygen with the high temperature.
Oh, my God.
And my wife, she had to sew lids for the cages this weekend so the sun wouldn't hit on them. So she got that green stuff that they put around the tennis courts, you know?
Yeah.
Shade cloth, and she put that over the top, and they're doing everything I can to beat this climate change issue. And I got a delivery today, again, like half of what I would normally get, and I spaced them out half as crowded as they normally are, trying to deal with it. And I guess what I'm trying to say is it's directly affecting us. You know, it's affecting me, your listener, and it's probably affecting other people. They might not even know it yet, but it is.
Oh, people are starting to know it. I mean, it's all over the country. You know why it flooded in Bucks County, Pennsylvania this weekend? Do you know why?
No, I don't know why.
They got 7 inches of rain, Gary, in 45 minutes.
That's kind of like what we had in Fort Lauderdale a couple months ago.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That it's so wet. The moisture is being, held in the clouds for so long because of the heat. The moisture is just building, and then 7 inches in 45 minutes falls. And what they had happen there was like a dam broke, like the water just came rushing, whoosh, and it washed away cars and a family.
It killed people.
A whole family.
Randy, tell me an instance where a politician, Al Gore in this case, was more right on, spot on, being a prophet for what the future holds than Al Gore in 2000 with this climate change.
And the horrible mockery and the disgusting, like childish, bullying of Al Gore. Even Saturday Night Live with the lockbox. Remember that? I mean,
I don't remember that.
That was terrible. And I mean, honestly, he was so right. But I wrote to somebody over the weekend that's in California, and I also talked to Jess, who's in California. She's literally in one bedroom because they have a through the window air conditioner. That's how she's staying cool because it's ridiculously hot in Los Angeles, right? So anyway, I spoke to a friend of mine out there. I was writing him an email. And I said, it's the I told you so nobody wanted to say.
Inconvenient truth.
Right. And nobody wanted to say I told you so. I mean, Al Gore didn't want to say I told you so. Nobody wanted to say it. Everybody wanted to say. So we got ahead of it and we built back better and we, did things smart and we got off of the, fossil fuels early enough. But no, we didn't. We didn't, and that's...
I remember when that Limbaugh would slough it off by saying, it's summer. What do you expect?
Right.
And then I remember listening to Glenn Beck one time, and he says his revulsion against the climate change people is he says he turns every light on in his house and turns the thermostat down as low as he can and then leaves for work and just burns all the electricity he can.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Oh.
I mean, they were really disgusting people.
What freaks.
I know. And we still have a crop of freaks. We still have the Tucker Carlsons of the world. We still have the Sean Hannitys that haven't repented. The Laura Ingrams. I mean, there's a ton of people out there that still deny science. But see, this is what my point was with RFK. RFK, when I knew him, okay, was an environmentalist. That was his cause. That was his force majeure. That was the thing that drove him forward. That was the thing that, but it turns out that he also back then was questioning vaccines. And I remember that because there was a period in time when I was questioning vaccines back in the day.
Thinking it caused autism?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I remember doing a show one day, and I was suggesting that, I had heard, and I was reading articles, because that's what I do when I don't know what I'm talking about, and I tell people to, go to the homework. I always post whatever I'm relying on. And I said, I don't know what the cause of autism is. I'm not going to pretend I know, but some people are saying that there's a preservative that's in the vaccines that we give to children called the thimerosal. And that thimerosal contains mercury, and that there's no safe level of mercury for a human being to ingest. And I remember Robert Kennedy called the show that day to tell me I was wrong.
I think I remember that.
And I was like totally okay with being wrong, okay? And he said, it's not thimerosal. That's not what's causing autism. And I thought what he was saying to me was that vaccines don't cause autism. Turns out all these years later, he was saying no, vaccines do cause autism. It just wasn't the preservative that you were saying caused the autism. Oh, my God. I should have known then that he was, a conspiracy theorist.
Well, Randy, yes, he's a conspiracy theorist. But if you add Cornel West and this Joe Manchin and now this schmuck, this Joe Lieberman, these guys could actually give this election to Trump, between the four of these people.
So let me tell you who's behind real quick, everybody. Get a pen out and write down these two names. Mark Penn. Anybody remember Mark Penn from the Clinton years? And his lovely wife, Miss Jacobson. Okay, these are the two people. She's the CEO of No Labels. And Mark Penn writes all these columns now for Fox News. They are still milking their comfortable, Georgetown salon life by propping up any candidate they can think of to make chaos.
What are they? What is this,
they're the
for
ones,
financial gain?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. I mean, they do the fundraisers and they take a piece. Yes, it's a business. It's a business. No Labels is not a party, okay? They try to do Third Way, all these stupid things. They're not parties. There are a couple of people who sit in the Mark Penn's salon townhouse in Georgetown. I've told the story of being in his house. Do you remember me telling about this fabulous art collection he has?
No.
Oh, yeah. It's pretty amazing. He probably has a couple $1 million worth of art on his walls, okay? And Nancy Jacobson and Mark Penn are a married couple. They've been milking this gravy train of fundraising and, and pretending that they are going to start a third party one day somewhere, somehow, knowing that we have an electoral college, it could never survive. But making money off of that notion for 20-something, 30 years now. That's who is courting Joe Manchin. That's who Joe Lieberman was courted by. Joe Lieberman and Mark Penn and Nancy Jacobson, they're all buds. They're all friends. Everybody's still, milking that same, spigot, let's call it. And it's a farce. They don't want a third party.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
So I always thought RFK was the premier environmentalist. Okay, I really thought that was his, main cause. That was why he wanted to be known. I thought that was what he wanted to be known for, and he's obviously not a stupid person. He's a lawyer. He's a successful lawyer, and I was wrong. It turns out that the unifying, the unifying quality of conspiracy theory believers has actually crossed into, not just people on the street, not just, people who believe that COVID was a hoax, not just people who want to believe that, the CIA killed both his father and his uncle. I mean, whatever your conspiracy, you're always going to end up, if you travel in conspiracy theory circles, you're always going to end up, blaming the Jews, because it's the most tried and true, sturdiest, longest lasting conspiracy theory ever. is the Jews did it. The Jews have an invisible hand that they're pulling invisible strings with, and that the invisible strings are the strings that are manipulating our world. I mean, it's just so bizarre, but if you end up in a conspiracy theory loop, that is where your mind is going to go, because there's just no avoiding it. And over the weekend, we see that this is the dinner conversation that Robert F. Kennedy partakes in. This is just him having dinner in a salon, with upper crusty people. My dinner conversation is usually, something about the kids. My dinner conversation is usually about something that somebody's binge watching, and like, why do you like that show? I don't like that show. Or did you see, Joan is Awful? Did you see Joan is Awful? It's what's going on in Hollywood right now. Joan is Awful. It's Black Mirror. It's episode 1 of the new season of Black Mirror, season 6. It's called Joan is Awful, and you have to watch it, and then you'll understand why the actors and actors aren't just the rich, famous people that you know. I was explaining to Brett, my girlfriend Terry, she's been my friend for 40 years. Her mother made a business out of this. Her mother was an extra. We lived in Queens, and her mother, Carmen, was a Spanish lady. She was from Spain. She was beautiful, and she could play Puerto Rican, she could play Italian, she could play Spanish, she could play, whatever. And they would always call her to be an extra, like in Prizzi's Honor, a big Italian wedding scene, something like that. And she made money doing that. She would get on the bus, then get on the train, go into Manhattan, and be an extra for the day. And I think back then she made $50. And that's what her business was. That's how, she got her extra money to buy, clothes for her kids. That's how she got extra money to buy clothes for herself. Okay, she was beautiful, and she loved a nice pair of capri pants with a pedal pusher, with a little crop top. Anyway, those people that have an interest in being extras, or an interest in being bit players, or not the big famous, they're worried about AI, artificial intelligence, because one of the things that the studio was talking about was scanning them. I swear to God, scanning them like you scan a document, okay? Scanning them, putting them into the database, into the computer, and then repurposing them for scene after scene after scene if they fit the bill for the extra they're casting. Like if they were doing, Far and Away, and they needed Irish peasants, right, to be in a chicken plucking scene, okay? So instead of paying, somebody $50 to come in and do that, they would just go into the database and say, redheads with blue eyes that could pass as Irish, and they would just plug and play them into the scene. So that's what half the strike is about. The other half the strike is about people who write for these, series. And they may write, they'll say, okay, here's 7 episodes of work. Go write this. They get one lump sum. The thing gets watched for 5 years, the same 7 episodes by 10 million people. They get no residuals. And Jessica has a friend who was Emmy nominated, okay? I don't want to give too much information, but she's Emmy nominated. And she was on the picket line this weekend with a sign that said Emmy nominated and on government assistance, because that is the situation that people who are writing for these streaming platforms are in. They're not getting compensated for their work, even though their work is spectacular. So all you people that come at me with this meritocracy crap, please bite me, okay? It's all about the streaming platforms or the algorithm or how much money you can put behind your show to pump it out there to the right eyeballs. And it's just, it's so bizarre, the system in which we all function in.
And Tony's daughter loves Stranger Things and Wednesday, and one's getting pushed back to 2025 because of this. One's getting pushed back to 2027, I believe. And try explaining to an 11-year-old whose identity is wrapped up in these shows that it's a just cause, that people aren't getting paid. It's so dicey to even try to explain.
Well, you have to explain to her that these are people and that they need to be paid for their work, and that what they're doing is creating worlds for you. And in the creating the worlds for you, there is an exchange of money, because it's their imagination that people are paying for. And so, we value that, and that's how you explain it. But I will say that there is something to this idea, and I was explaining to Jessica too, that this is about as close as we're going to get to a national strike. What do I mean by that? Well, thank God the teachers already had their strikes, mostly, right? But we're looking at now the Teamsters going on strike, UPS drivers, people not getting their crap from Amazon, really? And then not getting their TV, not getting their Stranger Things, not getting new seasons of, the morning show, not getting, whatever. So you have the Teamsters. You also have the auto workers are now, on the cusp of striking too. And you've got the Writers Guild and you got SAG and AFTRA. Now, I was a member of AFTRA for years and years, but they broke unions down here in Florida. So when I came down to Florida, I couldn't even be a union member and work down here. That's what a right-to-work state is all about, breaking unions. And so I never got anything out of AFTRA. I didn't get, a place in their pension fund. I never got my health care through them. But it's a union that has 90% unemployment because actors don't work steadily. And they don't get paid a lot. And writers don't work steadily. They may get, like I said, to write on one episode. And that episode could win an Emmy Award, but they didn't get hired to write on any of the other episodes for that season or the season that's, up. It happens all the time. So anyway, the downside to it is exactly what you're trying to explain to Tony's daughter. And that is that people say, F the unions. Why should we pay people a fair? These are rich people. They're not. Okay, they're not. These are people and the behemoths, the giant studios that are buying each other. Like one buys the other, buys the other, buys the other, and now there's three, and they're too big to, fail kind of thing. Their attitude is, we'll just wait them out. We'll wait them out until they lose their apartments, till they lose their houses. Let them try and survive in Los Angeles. Let them try to survive, where the cost of living is exponentially, higher. We'll just wait them out. There's that possibility.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
All right, so we went on a little tangent there. But what I was trying to say is that at my dinner table, those are the things we talk about. We talk about, binge watching. We talk about the kids. We talk about, gardening. We talk about recipes. We talk about the guys. The guys like to play golf, whatever. How you feeling? They talk about conspiracy theories at RFK's dinner table, which is very strange. But that is what they talk about in his circle of friends.
We need to talk about bioweapons.
Wait, what? He actually opens the convo with, we need to talk about bioweapons. And nobody gets up from the table and flees. I would leave skid marks, okay? Somebody sits at my dinner table and says, we need to talk about bioweapons. Unless you work for the for UNSCOM or the International Atomic Energy Agency or Homeland Security, I don't want to hear about bioweapons from you, okay? Unless you're Dr. Anthony Fauci or somebody that works at, Bethesda. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't want to hear from you. I'm out of there. But they sit there.
We need to talk about bioweapons.
We need to talk about bioweapons.
Well, I know a lot now about bioweapons because I've been doing a book on it for the past 2.5 years, and the technology that we now have to develop these microbes, we've put hundreds of millions of dollars into ethnically targeted microbes. The Chinese have done the same thing. In fact, COVID-19, there's an argument that it is ethnically targeted. COVID-19 attacks certain races disproportionately. The races that are most immune to COVID-19
Look at that guy.
are because of the structure of the genetic structure, genetic differentials among different races of the receptors of the ACE2 receptor. COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese.
The people that are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese. Well, first of all, Ashkenazi Jews, hello. a lot of us died from COVID. Okay, a lot of us perished. 1 million Chinese died of COVID. So really bad bioweapon, RFK. Really bad, really stupid bioweapon. You know,
if I'm ever at a dinner and somebody says, "Hey, Brett, we need to talk about bioweapons," my next thing is going to be, "Why are there some here?" Because if there aren't, we don't need to be talking about it. And second, it sounds like his voice box is like protesting the stuff coming out of it.
No, don't go there. He has a disease.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay.
No, don't go there.
Okay.
That's not right.
I
Yeah,
apologize.
That's not right. But what he said was we have to talk about bioweapons and we have to talk about ethnically targeted microbes. Now, if anybody sits at your dinner table and says we must talk about bioweapons and ethnically targeted microbes, run away. I don't care if they're a world-renowned attorney who won a case once against Monsanto on behalf of a guy who had lymphoma, because that is where he made his money, okay? Honestly. And then they say ethnically targeted to spare the Jews, because the Jews are the invisible hand that's playing the invisible strings that creates an invisible barrier against COVID. Ethnically targeted microbes to protect Chinese and Ashkenazi Jews. Okay, could I just say Ashkenazi Jews, for those of you who've heard the term but don't know what it means, Eastern European Jews, Eastern European. You know what's there in Eastern Europe? You know what's there? The Caucasus. Just saying. Can't get more Caucasian than that. But listen, he has lost my respect on so many occasions already, okay? He started down this really bad road when 5G came out. See, this is what, the QAnon folks, and this is what binds them together. And this is why I'm saying, maybe this is the way to get us into perfect harmony. Maybe this is the way to bring unity to the United States of America, is we all pile into this conspiracy theory, whatever it is, du jour, per day, and we just go with it. Because it does seem to cross class lines, racial lines, ethnic lines. It crosses religious lines, religious boundaries. It crosses every part of culture. You could go, listen. I'm going to show you. Here's a woman that is also part of the conspiracy theory, universe of people. And you could look at her and you could laugh if you wanted to. You could just, pull her out and say, "God, they're morons." But remember, RFK is saying almost the same crap.
Joe Biden has been dead since 2019. James Woods, the actor, is playing Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe Poopy Pants. But the president is trying to get us back down with our economy because...
So he is the president?
Yes, he never conceded. He is very much the president of the republic.
The republic.
Biden has been doing all his White House pictures out there in California at Black Rock Studio with the fake green screen.
And so
he doesn't even live in the White House. Nobody lives in White House.
Oh, so he's in California?
Yeah.
Okay. So you could say that she's a special kind of person, and you could describe her in many, many ways, and you would be wrong. The thing that binds Robert F. Kennedy and her together is a devout, shameless belief in conspiracy theories. It seems to be the unifying thread that, runs through our culture. So I don't know if people buy into it because it's easier than being a discerning, fact-based person, or if it's entertaining, or if it's because of cognitive dissonance, or if it's because RFK is onto something with the poisoning and the scrambling of the brains of people. I don't know. But once you find yourself sitting at a dinner table with the Tony elite, drinking fine wine and eating, off of a menu where the food needs to be explained to you, and the next thing out of your mouth is, we must talk about bioweapons and ethnically targeted microbes, something has gone really, really sour in your life. Something is not going well for you. Now, he did talk about 5G and the radiation from wireless internet causes brain cancer, that people have an enormous amount of brain cancer that they don't want to tell you that they have, and that the phone companies and the the people that make iPhones, Foxconn and all, they're all lying to you. He also says that there's chemicals in the water supply, and they are producing gender dysphoria. They are producing non-binary children. They're also making children gay where they ordinarily would not be gay. He also thinks that the CIA killed both his father and his uncle, and that antidepressants are responsible for mass shootings, that W stole the 2000, not the 2000. No, that would be garden variety conspiracy there. No, he says W stole the 2004 presidential election, and that the 5G itself, the actual 5G technology, is a plot to harvest our data and control our behavior. I would say Elon Musk is, more proficient in that particular arena. So you could blame a lot of things, and I'm trying to figure out what's actually gone wrong in our society that actually allows people to shamelessly, publicly say things like, we must talk about bioweapons and ethnically targeted microbes that bind to the ACE2 inhibitor or the ACE2 receptors in the COVID molecule. We must talk about that. And we also must talk about James Woods being an actor who is playing Joe Biden, and that Donald Trump is really president and no one lives in the White House. How can you say that in public shamelessly? I don't know if you saw the guy who's sitting next to RFK at the dinner table, but he's staring into whoever's filming this. He's staring into their eyes like, you getting this? Are you getting? I don't know what the hell is going on at his dinner table. Really, I couldn't explain it to you. Except to tell you it's very unifying because it is crossing every boundary, every line, everything that would separate us into silos, everything that would separate us into neighborhoods or into descriptive adjectives for who we are. It's like she's obviously, a rural lady. He's obviously a city boy. She's obviously undereducated. He's obviously overeducated. And yet they're bound together by the mysterious, invisible hand that is manipulating the entire world. Just a sliver of humanity that's controlling it all. What?
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
I'm going to say one more thing. They haven't done a very good job about protecting public health, but they've done a very good job at using the quarantine to bring 5G into all of our communities and to shift us all, to begin the process of shifting us all to a digital currency, which is the beginning of slavery. Because if they control your bank account, they control your behavior. And we all see these advertisements on television saying 5G is coming to your community. It's going to be a great thing for all of you. It's going to change your lives. It's going to make all of your lives so much better. And it's very convincing, I have to say. Because I look at those ads and I think, that's great. I can hardly wait till it gets here. And then, because I'm going to be able to download a video game in 6 seconds instead of 16 seconds. And is that why they're spending $5 trillion on 5G? No. The reason is for surveillance and data harvesting. It's not for you and me. It's for Bill Gates. It's for Jeffrey Zuckerberg. And it's for Bezos and all of the other billionaires.
So I don't understand if we're staring down flooding and extreme heat waves and hot oceans and betas dying and corals are bleaching and our entire ecosystem is literally on the cusp of extinction now. Why is his deal, this environmentalist, this river keeper dude, this guy who used to carry around, little birds with broken wings and nurse them back to health so his children would learn to take care of nature? It was his children were there too. I don't want to bring them into this crazy stuff, but why is it that RFK is hyper about things that have nothing to do with saving the planet, when that is how he introduced himself to all of us? That is why we know who he is. That, and he's got a very famous first, middle, and last name. But we're sitting here with, Bernie's been doing an amazing job of putting pen to paper and putting out calls to action, alerting people who are now being displaced, people who are now, did you see, I don't know if you read the newspaper or not, but over the weekend, I don't know if it was the Washington Post or the New York Times, there was this front page article, massive article, huge article, about how the Saudis have come to America and leased our desert lands and found underground reservoirs of water and are pumping out exorbitant amounts of our underground reservoir waters in order to turn the desert into verdant green fields of very water-intensive crops like alfalfa, which they then grow, exploiting the water from deserts like in Arizona, and then dry the alfalfa, turn it into hay, pack it, and transport it back to Saudi Arabia and feed it to their cattle. They are literally taking our water away from desert, I don't know what to call it, atmospheres, ecosphere. What do you call a desert? It's it's a place that, is known for not having water, but apparently underground there is. They are dredging out that water, growing alfalfa, which is water intensive. So you'd be better off growing marijuana. How do I know? Because I grow marijuana. And marijuana doesn't need a lot of water. Contrary to popular opinion or belief, it needs a lot of sun. Anyway, that is what they're doing. They're buying up our land, and they're buying up land that people didn't want, that people ignored, that people didn't, excavate, that people didn't even know what lie underneath it. But they know how to farm in a desert because they're Saudis. And they're exporting these crops for their cattle in a place where people are going to be fighting over water. I have told you for 20 years the next wars will be over water. As soon as we make what the Saudis have worthless, as soon as we make what Iranians have worthless, as soon as we make what Iraqis have worthless, and that'd be Earl, fossil fuels, Texas tea, okay? As soon as we do that and make what they have worthless, the next battles will be fought over water, which will always be useful. It will never be worthless. And in fact, the value of it is going up exponentially as we see the earth warming. So why isn't a person like RFK fighting or waging a campaign on this very issue? Maybe it's because he believes Joe Biden has actually made a down payment on this issue, and that Joe Biden can point to the evolution of electric vehicles, that Joe Biden can point to the evolution of Build Back Better using recyclable material to build back bridges that fossil fuel trucks that caught fire, destroyed in 12 days. You know that, right? You know that bridge on I-95 in Pennsylvania was built back better with recyclable materials in 12 days, a project that used to take us at least, let's say, a year. They figured it out. So I don't know why he won't run on his love for the environment. I have no idea why he runs on conspiracy theories, except to say, listen, if I thought he was just trolling people, using it as bait to get the fish to come bite on his little, hook, like he's trolling for the Democratic conspiracy theorists, because as I said, this conspiracy theory thing crosses all boundaries, including party loyalty, including party affiliation, including whatever, because he's running as a Democrat and he's, very conspiratorial here. And he's not talking about the environment, which I think would win him even more praise from a larger swath of the Democratic Party. But maybe, and if I thought he was baiting you or trolling you, I would tell you that that's my conclusion about him. But I conclude that he believes this stuff. I do. I conclude that he actually believes this crap, that he is an extraordinarily good lawyer who could sell conspiracy theories that he believes are true to the unwitting jury that is, the libertarian crowd. But I just need you to know this. With regard to his campaign, who is putting the money into this man? Who is supporting this man? Well, some of it's not knowable because it's dark money and it's PAC money. But I can tell you who's in charge of the PAC. And the people that are in charge of the PAC that's raising the most money for him, he's raised about $10.25 million, okay? Which is great when you consider Mike Pence raised $1.2 million. Mike Pence, the former vice president of the United States, okay? Who won't play the conspiracy theory game. Tucker Carlson invited him into conspiracy land this weekend. He interviewed him at some thing he had. Wasn't exactly a debate. It wasn't exactly a forum. It wasn't exactly anything. He just made these people come sit down and talk to him, and Pence showed up. Why? I have no idea. I guess because he has no judgment. Listen, he was vice president to Donald J. Trump, who had fans, voters, sycophants that tried to kill him. Okay. And he's still part of that party. So his judgment is, not great. But he won't play the conspiracy game, right? Because Tucker invited him in and said to him, why don't you come in and tell me that I'm right about Ukraine and that Russia is really the great savior here, that Russia should be in NATO, not Ukraine. And Pence was having none of it. He's like, I've heard this from you before, okay? I'm not playing. So he only raised 1.2.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
It's very clear that the Zelensky government has arrested priests for having views they disagree with. That's not consistent with religious liberty. It's an attack on it, and we're funding it. And I'm just wondering how is it, and I don't mean to be disrespectful at all, but I sincerely wonder how a Christian leader could support the arrest of Christians for having different views.
Well, what I can tell you is I asked the Christian leader in Kiev if that was in fact happening, and he assured me that it was not. People were not being persecuted for their religious beliefs. Now,
he said
let me take a break here. I know we disagree on this strongly, but I respect your right to your opinion on Ukraine, and I trust you'll respect mine.
Okay, so that answer is worth $1.2 million in fundraising. This answer is worth $10.2 million. Okay?
It really gets harder and harder, but, we have to remember that Putin twice agreed to sign the treaties. That would have given us essentially everything. The only thing, what Putin wanted,
given us,
in both these treaties, in the Minsk Accords and then the April 2022 treaty, was that Donbass got to stay part of the Ukraine, but it would be able to protect its ethnic Russian populations from violence by the government, which was a U.S.-installed government.
Oh, my God. Okay, so that answer is worth $10.25 million. Mike Pence's answer that they're not kidnapping priests because of their religious affiliation or their religious beliefs, that they didn't do any of that. That conspiracy theory, no, he's not buying into. $1.2 million, but RFK, who says the Minsk Accords, which, by the way, called for a ceasefire, that never, ever occurred during the takeover of the Donbass region and subsequent to the annexation of Crimea in 2014. No ceasefire was ever achieved. Russia never stopped fighting the Ukrainians on Ukrainian soil, on Ukrainian territory. Donbass is in Ukraine. Crimea is a portion of Ukraine. So, and what he's saying there is that, oh, well, they just, would have given us, who's us, would have given us everything if Ukraine would have signed the Minsk Accords, which he said all they wanted, meaning he's advocating for Putin. All Putin wanted was to keep the Donbass region ethnically Russian, except he left it to protect itself from violence from the government. No, not exactly. What the Minsk agreements called for was A, a ceasefire, which never even happened, and B, it said that the Donbass region would actually elect Russian people to the Ukrainian parliament, and that the Rada is called, but they would go to the Ukrainian parliament, and they would have veto power, over any Ukrainian foreign policy that they disagreed with. That's what was in the Minsk Accords. Now, he doesn't want to tell you that. But that answer there, oh, well, Ukraine deserves to be invaded. I don't know how he gets there. Ukraine deserves to be bombed by Russia. Ukraine deserved to have a kindergarten attacked by Russia, and it deserved to have its maternity hospitals bombed. It deserved to have its, malls bombed. It deserves to have, kindergartens bombed. It deserves to have, steel plants attacked. It deserves to have, apartment buildings just bombed out to smithereens simply because they never, ever, ever agreed to give veto power to Russia over their own sovereign foreign policy in their government, like literally in the government, in the Rada, in the House of Representatives, which is kind of what we're talking about. And that gets a lot of money raised for you. So who's giving that money? Well, I had a little look-see. It's Republicans. I mean, I could go into gory detail with you, but I don't know if you'll be so fascinated about it. But the giant PACs can take unlimited sums of dark money. They don't have to disclose their donors. The PAC that raised the lion's share of this $10 million that RFK was able to raise is owned by a guy named Sachs. That's just one of the PACs that I looked into. And he is a guy who supports Ron DeSantis. Okay, that's where his money primarily goes. It goes to Ron DeSantis, who has raised twice that, okay, through these guys. And now these guys, who have never given to a Democrat in their lives, are now suddenly very generous with the likes of RFK. So my question is, do you think that they want Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to win? Or do you think they want the chaos? Because in chaos, you can... Yes, right. Steal the presidency back for a Republican. They're very unpopular right now, Republicans. They're very unpopular with women because of their abortion bans. They're very unpopular with the military because of their abortion bans. They're very unpopular right now. A lot of people suffered a lot with COVID. A lot of people died, and a lot of people got very, very, very sick. And they don't appreciate that the Republican position on a 2-year period of unbelievable agony for this country was a hoax. Did everybody forget what it was like? Apparently they did, or some of them think it was all a conspiracy and they didn't believe their own eye. I don't know. Like I said, their brains are scrambled. Something is going on with this portion, and again, it's not any one portion, it's spread out, that play these games with their own scrambled brains about conspiracies and the invisible hand that you just can't beat. Meanwhile, we got a corrupt Supreme Court now, okay, who's taking money from anyone who will give it, anyone at all. business in front of the court? No problem. My wife, hired all your lawyers? No problem. Oh, my wife is, campaigning that the election was rigged, and I have to decide whether or not the election was rigged? No problem. Seriously, they love the idea that people can't agree on reality, so much so that they can steal democracy right out from under you and hand it to corporations who are now the people. Corporations are people. People are not people. I don't know. It's so ask yourself that question whenever you see RFK, because I was inclined to believe him about vaccines early on with the autism question. It wasn't. What did I believe? Because I concluded, after being a discerning person who values fact-based research done by people who are qualified. Is that a word in our culture anymore? A qualified person? Yeah, somebody who has studied for more than 2 years ethnically targeted microbes and wants to talk about bioweapons over dinner, versus somebody who is an epidemiologist who has studied vaccines and vaccination efforts since, Jonas Salk, right? So I choose to go with the people that actually study this stuff all day, every day, and care about your children. But honestly, this doesn't raise money, right? Conspiracy theories are now a $10 million industry, even if you're a Democrat. Wow.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Which was a U.S.-installed government. That NATO stay out of Ukraine and that they denazify the government. So all of those things seem really reasonable. Both Zelensky and Putin agreed in April 2022 to sign that agreement, and then the Russians acted in good faith by beginning to withdraw their troops from the Ukraine.
But look, the truth is the Russians have not acted in good faith.
Right. They acted in good faith at that time.
They've illegally invaded a sovereign democratic country. And about the denazification, the head of Ukraine, the president, is Jewish. You can't be a Nazi and be Jewish, right? So this idea that Putin was doing this out of good faith to get rid of Nazis from Ukraine, I think is for the birds.
Beers. There are extreme ultranationals within the ministries.
But it's not a Nazi government.
No, but it's a government.
And you can't say that about a government led by a Jewish man. I mean, it's incredibly offensive, isn't it?
Well, listen, President Zelensky ran in 2019 on a peace platform that he promised to sign the Minsk Accords. Now, when he got in there, he suddenly pivoted. Why? Because he was threatened by ultranationalists within his government.
Okay, all right. That's just garbage, okay? That's garbage in, garbage out. Russia never agreed to the everybody was like waiting for the ceasefire. Russia never ever agreed to the ceasefire. Russia did not take its troops out of Ukraine, didn't begin to take its troops out of Ukraine, never took its troops out of Ukraine. In fact, we all now see what Russia did. Okay, this is really insulting to people in Ukraine who are being killed for no reason except Putin has a fantasy of putting back the old Soviet Union the way it was, which would then not just include Ukraine, but there goes Estonia, you know what I mean? Which is a beautiful little place that you can visit now, okay? But there goes a whole host of, countries that have declared its independence from Vladimir Putin and from the Soviet Union early, okay? And have managed to have amazing economies and good, solid government. But only Ukraine has Nazis. I mean, this is just so sick and sad. It's really ugly. He's been doing this a seriously long time. And the people that are giving him money to continue doing this, to continue to put like stakes in the hearts of, voters, sour them, are Republicans. Okay? Mark Dixon, he's a California aluminum magnet. Okay, he actually treats aluminum for the aerospace industry. That's apparently a really, 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 really good business because he gave $450,000 to federal candidates. Okay, and 400 of that 450,000 went to Donald Trump. Yeah, and now he gives to RFK too. Keith Sheldon, who used to own a chain of car dealerships. Maybe you heard of him in Texas. I don't know. But he's based in Argyle, Texas. He consistently backed Donald Trump. He gave the individual maximum to Trump. He gave to Trump's presidential campaign. He gave to all the committees he was allowed to give to. He donated a new individual maximum to Trump's reelection campaign. He donated to one of Trump's favorites, the Senate candidate Herschel Walker. Okay, donated to him. Now he's giving money to RFK. Then you got this PAC, Purple Good Government PAC, controlled by this guy, David Sachs, who is an investor who publicly backs every Republican presidential candidate who is to the right of Adolf, okay? And he is now backing Ron DeSantis, who is a white Christian nationalist. If you were groping around to identify what is wrong with Ron DeSantis, it is that he is a Christian white nationalist. And what does that mean? It means that Christian white nationalists believe that they need a government that's going to protect them from everybody else. It's not going to bind them to following the laws. It's going to protect them from having to follow the laws. Everybody else will have to follow the laws, but will not be protected. That's what white Christian nationalism is all about. And Ron DeSantis is their guy. They thought Trump was, but they got disappointed that he didn't drain the swamp. In fact, Maria Bartiromo was fighting with Trump over the weekend. I don't even want to see it. I don't want to play it. I don't want to hear it. You'll just have to look it up or trust me. She was fighting with him that he didn't drain the swamp. He didn't do it. Why didn't he do it? She was pissed, peeved, I tell you. And now this guy who's supporting Ron DeSantis is also supporting RFK Jr. I just think it's such a small world that's so coincidental. It just, makes me question, why would Republicans have an interest in seeing Robert Kennedy Jr. become the Democratic nominee? Do you think they want him to win? So much so that they give him millions of dollars? Or do you think they want to wreak havoc on the election or chaos? It's a question you're going to have to answer yourself. Pat in New Mexico.
Hey, I just wanted to check in. I was a little thrown off course because seems like you've been attacking RFK Jr. I have a whole litany of questions, and this will give you a chance to impress your crowd, your listeners. I'm a liberal, but I'm not a progressive, and I'm definitely not a Bernie bro. But I wanted to clarify a few things, like for one, your party affiliation is, as you have said, it's the Independent Party, right?
Me, I have to be a registered Democrat because they have closed primaries here in Florida. And if I'm not a registered Democrat or a registered Republican, then I can't vote in the primary. So I'm registered as a Democrat.
But you have said openly, and I've heard you, so you can't deny it.
Yeah, I'm not part of the party, that's for sure. I don't go to,
DNC.
I don't go to DNC meetings, that's for sure. And I didn't like, what they did with the DLC, the Democratic Leadership Committee. I didn't like the corporatization of the Democratic Party when that was happening. I didn't like the deregulation of my industry when that was happening. And now you can see what it's done to Hollywood, the deregulation. I mean, the lack of antitrust. Anyway, that's why I am what I am.
Yeah, and you don't deny having. I know you want to.
Did you call to interrogate me, or did you have something to say about RFK that you liked?
No, I did call to interrogate you, and I think it gives you.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Since you think that you have the answers. I know you're.
No, I just have money. I just follow money.
You were a truck driver, right?
Right.
And a hustler girl?
I was a hustler, yes, but not naked.
Yeah, you're a hustler girl.
But not naked. I wasn't naked in Hustler.
Oh, you weren't?
No.
Oh, my God. How about that?
No, I was a
Isn't
topic.
that-
I was one of their long-form
Isn't
journalistic
that classy?
pieces. I wasn't
Isn't
a
that
naked
classy of
piece.
you?
What?
And let's ask you about your degrees. How about your education? What high school? Junior
High school. Yep, high school.
You got a GED or a high school diploma?
A proficiency diploma.
What is that?
It's a GED.
You're gonna put me on. You're gonna put me off because you don't
Yeah,
have
because
any
we're up
answer.
against a break and you haven't said anything that anybody's interested in. People know me. You do too.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Have the right to compel unwanted medical interventions on us. The Nazis did that in the camps.
The Nazis?
In World War II. They tested vaccines on gypsies and Jews. And the world was so horrified after the war, we signed the Nuremberg Charter. And we all pledged when we do that, we would never again impose unwanted medical interventions on human beings without informed consent.
So, was anybody forced against their will to get a vaccine? First of all, I gotta tell you, the idea that the Nazis, that he's just always invoking Nazi practices to make a case about COVID. So on the one day, it's the Nazis that were doing what we were doing about vaccinating people and COVID. And then on another day, he needs to talk to you about bioweapons because they were targeted. The microbes in the vaccines were targeted to protect Jews. I cannot figure out why his brain. Never mind why. I mean, why is one of the most unanswerable. Kids know that. That's why they'll stare at you in the face and say, "You have to go to your room now." Why? Because you have a big mouth. Why? Because I asked you to do your homework and you yelled at me. Why? You know what I'm saying? They're like fourth graders now. So, don't ask why he believes this. Just ask, how did his brain get so scrambled? You know that his uncle, JFK, who literally fought during the Cold War, Russia and Russians trying to put missiles 90 miles away from the United States in Cuba, he would ask of his nephew right now to not ask what he can do for liberty or what liberty could do for him, but ask what he could do for liberty. Now, all of a sudden, he's all about a Nazi program that spared the Jews. I don't know. I don't know how his brain got this way. But the guy that just called from New Mexico who wanted to interrogate me, just know that there's nothing about my life that's going to embarrass me because I lived my life with integrity. I lived my life to the best of my abilities. Did I graduate high school? Not really, but everybody knows that. This is not some secret that you're exposing to the world. Instead, I joined the military, like so many poor kids did. I don't know. People are just bizarre in this world. All I'm doing is following the money and telling you that the support that is coming to RFK for these views, for this expression of the invisible hand controlling the puppet strings that control the world, being the invisible hand of the all-knowing, all-seeing, omnipotent Jew in the sky is just, it should be an affront to anybody who is part of the other side that doesn't go down the bad road of the MAGA crowd. but for some reason it's appealing, and it will raise you 10 million Republican dollars. It will. It will get the Republicans to give and give and give. And I'm telling you right now, it's not because they want to see him win. Trump himself is backing Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Trump himself was on a radio show last month, and he encouraged Robert to hang in there. Hang in the presidential race. He praised him as being very smart. He said, quote, "He's been very nice to me," which of course is everything to Donald Trump. Like, are you nice to him? Are you loyal to him? Do you praise him? Do you sing his praises? Do you tell him he's a good-looking man and an important man and a man to be reckoned with? Do you tell him that the second he walked in the room, you knew he was a man that commanded respect? He said, "He's been very nice to me. I've actually had a very nice relationship with him over the years." I have too. He's a very smart guy. Yes, he is. And he's a good guy. It's up for debate. He's a common sense guy. And so am I. No. You're a guy who is common because everything you do is to benefit you. What's uncommon is everything you do to benefit others. That's uncommon. He said, so whether you're a conservative or a liberal, common sense is common sense, and a lot of what I run on is common sense. He's doing really well. I saw a poll. He's at 22. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Very strong. Doing very well. So, yes, he's supporting this candidacy. So, just so you know. Just so you know. Xavier in L.A.
Hey, what's up, Randy?
Wow.
How you doing today? Happy Monday.
Quite a good phone you have there.
Huh?
That's a good phone.
Oh, okay. One thing I definitely have to say is, wow. You know what? I am truly a fan, and you looking good in that little black.
Rich in Denver.
Randy, my queen.
Yeah.
As you've always said, the information is the coin of the realm. You know.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be interesting? And I have a theory or a scenario play out. Because I just saw a poll, and I don't know who it is. It's from Prime House. I was watching the ABC News out here in Denver, and 21% would from the No Labels Party would vote. It's the 2024.
They're not a party. You understand that. They're not a party. They're a business.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, a business. Trump 40%, Biden 39%, and 21%. I think the QAnons just got the wrong Kennedy. Instead of JFK Jr., it's going to be RFK Jr. that's going to run with Trump, you know?
Yeah, well, you know, supposedly Fox News asked RFK if he would run as Donald Trump's vice president. He said no. Then they asked, would you be Biden's vice presidential nominee? And he said no. So I mean, I don't know.
Well, he's just playing down in the weeds, you know. All again at this, Randy, as you said, you know, and I've said it before. This is the reason we've got to get the money out of the effing politics.
Yes, it becomes a business.
You know,
That's right.
It's just true. And you were last week, Randy, was one of your best shows when you were talking about this is why I want Biden back in 2024. We're going to run it. We are screwed. I was telling Brett, we had in the month of June out here in Denver, Randy, we had over 14.85 inches of rain in Denver. You know,
it never rains
we had
there. I thought
tornado. It never rains. Exactly. We have the second. We have more sunshine days than Miami Beach or Sandy.
Yeah, you have 300.
Just over 300. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was more rain, Randy, in the month of June. At the airport, they got in one night 1.85 inches of rain. And not only the rain, Randy, we had a tornado in Highlands Ranch, which is a suburb southwest of Denver. Touchdown.
Yeah.
In June, you know, up along the foothills, basically. Tornado, that's not Tornado Alley. That's, you know, 50, 60 miles away from Tornado Alley. You know, if we don't figure this out and we don't get right with the climate, we're running and put Biden back in there, We are done, not just as a country, but as a planet.
It's everywhere. I mean, it's not just here, you know. Yeah. It's in India. It's in China. You know, Beijing was like 113 degrees. Beijing, China. It's unbelievable. India, they're literally dropping like flies. Okay, it's everywhere. It's in Spain, in Somalia, in Pakistan, in Houston. Okay, it's all over the place. It is a global warming cycle, and it's just the beginning of
exactly
of the intense weather.
And Gary was right. I feel so sorry for Gary's bait, and Gary was right. You know, what's his name? The ex-VP was right. An inconvenient truth. If we'd have listened to him 20 years ago, and we had him as president, you know, we wouldn't be in this mess. It's 100 degrees here in Denver today.
Yeah,
you know.
I know.
It was 103 overnight in Turkey a couple weeks ago.
Do you know what the ocean temperature is?
Yeah, I heard you last week said 96 degrees in Fort Lauderdale. You were talking about it.
It's 98 degrees in Miami now. 98 degrees. So when the water gets warm, hot like that, there's no oxygen, and that's why the fish are dying.
The fish died.
Yeah, and that's because
we're the frog in the pot, and it's boiling. It's on boil right now, Randy.
That's it.
It's on mid-boil.
That's it.
Hey, have a great day, Randy.
Thank you,
Stay cool.
You too.
Care. Love you.
Love you more. Thank you. Yeah, this is, and you would think that RFK Jr., if he was a serious guy about serious things, it can't be any more serious than this, that he would base his campaign, build his campaign around this. This he knows. He's always known. He's known this for 23 years.